Hello. Welcome to my channel Touching Stories. You're about to hear an amazing story about love and unexpected decisions. Enjoy watching.
Elizabeth was often alone at home. She was so tired of it that she wanted someone to be there for her. Her mother was always at the office. She worked as a bookkeeper for the village council, so she often stayed there late. "Maddie, are you asleep?" A woman came into the house. No, she came out of her room. "Let's have dinner then." She set the groceries from her bag on the table. "Okay, why are you taking so long again today?" Elizabeth yawned. "Look, I've yet paid a salary for this. I need to make sure there are no mistakes." The woman didn't like the subject. Good, her daughter agreed with her. They ate and then went to bed. In the morning, the girl had to go to school and her mother had to get up for work again. "Hi," Arnold met her on the road. "Hello," Elizabeth liked him. "How's it going?" He picked up the girl's briefcase. "Normal," she blushed. "Shall we go out tonight?" he asked simply. "Okay." They're already approaching the school porch. "Well, what did he say to you?" Katie's best friend came up to her. Nothing, that one was still staring at the guy's back. "Well, Elizabeth, Tony, it was interesting." "It's okay that we're going out tonight," the girl admitted. "Did you say yes?" Katie was sure that Elizabeth was going to torture him for a long time. "Yeah, as long as I can. School will be over soon. You'll take off and leave, and I'll be left with my pride." She was sure of it. "Look at you, anyone would take you." My friend was sure of it. "Thank you for the compliment, of course, but I wish it was Arnold." She blushed again. They went to class. The lessons began, but Elizabeth did not care about them. She thought only about the young man. Classes dragged slowly. It was boring. Finally, everything was over. The girl went out into the schoolyard, but Arnold was not there. "Waiting?" Katie caught up with her. "Leave me alone, eh?" Elizabeth couldn't stand her friend's teasing any longer. She went home, had lunch, and decided to do her homework. She couldn't think of anything to do, and she looked out the window every now and then. When it was 6 o'clock in the evening, he came in. At first, Elizabeth wanted to run out to meet him, but after a moment, she thought it would be rash. She sat back in her chair. There was a knock on the window. Elizabeth looked out, smiled, and shook her head, indicating that she was about to come out. "Hi," he grinned from ear to ear. "Why so happy?" She was shy, but she spoke confidently. "He saw you." He didn't hide the fact that he liked the girl. "Let's go," she smiled and tugged his hand. They went to the bank of the river, which was a favorite place for young people. But Arnold and Elizabeth didn't want anyone to see them, so they decided to go further, to a fisherman's cottage, which had been abandoned for a long time. "Come here." He gave her a hand to keep her from falling through on the bridge, where the boards were already rotten. "Thank you." She jumped to the ground and fell right into his arms. Now he went to the door and tried to open it, but nothing worked. Then Arnold took a piece of iron that was lying on the ground, slipped it under the boards, pounded on it, and the door failed. "Wow," was all Elizabeth could say. They went inside. The place smelled musty. There were old nets around, some rags, some mattress. "Come here." The boy beckoned her. They laid the mattress against the wall, threw some other stuff on it, and made themselves comfortable. There was a small window opposite where they were sitting, with a view of some of the trees and the sky. Beautifully, Elizabeth sat in Arnold's arms. "Like you," he whispered it in her ear. "What?" She laughed and turned to him. "You're beautiful." He touched her hair, which was disheveled from its ponytail. Their faces were very close together, and Arnold couldn't resist. He kissed Elizabeth. "You what?" She recoiled from him, blushing. "I love you." He held her hands. "What are you talking about? What kind of love can there be at our age?" She said it, and she didn't want him to let her go. "Come to me." He pulled her to his chest again. She could smell him. She liked him. Arnold stroked her head, her back, her neck. They were pleasant touches. "I'll never leave you," he whispered to her. "I love you," she answered him. They lay like that on the old mattress for a long time, Arnold holding her and Elizabeth drowning in that embrace. "Time to go home." He kissed her. "Yes." She stood up, shook it off, looked at him and smiled. They left the cabin, closed the door so that it would appear that this was the way it was. Arnold walked with Elizabeth to her house. From now, he stepped close to her and set it into her hair. "Arnold," she hugged him. "Yes, missed you very much. Can't wait to get together." Elizabeth wanted to go shopping for a doll for her daughter and then go. "Come on, see you later." They hugged. There were a lot of people in the store. Everyone wanted to please children on this fabulous holiday. I'm sorry, Elizabeth felt like she'd stepped on someone's foot. Just shine today, the man looked down at his shoes. I didn't do it on purpose. Elizabeth really didn't mean it. She pulled a handkerchief out of her pocket, wanting to remove her mark from the victim's shoes. You what? He grabbed her arm. Sorry again. Couldn't find any other words, girl. Come on, he took her to where there were the least people. Why? She didn't understand what this man wanted from her. Now he sat down, dusted his boots a couple times with some kind of rag, and everything was as it had been before. I should probably go. Elizabeth looked to see that there weren't as many customers at the register. Wait, I'm with you, he rose. Okay, she's already headed that way. My name is Michael. What's yours? Elizabeth heard from behind her. Elizabeth, she didn't turn around at that. Buying a doll for your sister? He pointed at the beautiful toy in the girl's hands. To my daughter, waiting for me for the holidays at Grandma's. She didn't mince words. Wow, Michael didn't continue. He was also buying something. And when he went outside, he saw that Elizaveta had crossed to the other side. He caught up with her. Can I walk you out? He walked beside me. I think you're already doing that, she smiled. Elizabeth thought to herself, how could you just step on a man's foot in the store, and the next moment you had already made an acquaintance? She liked Michael. He was solid, in a coat, with a briefcase and an umbrella. Yeah, are you going somewhere? He looked at the large bag in her hand. Yes, I live in the village, and now I am studying here. For the holidays I decided to visit my mother and daughter. Elizabeth spoke casually. Let me help you. He held out his hand to take the bag. Thank you. She really was grateful because the luggage was heavy. They reached the train station, stopped. Elizabeth, will we meet again? He'd like that very much. Why not? She saw her bus pulling up. Then tell me where you live in the city. I'll be sure to come. He looked in the same direction she did. Yes, she nodded and dictated the address to him. Before we met, he stood looking at her through the bus window. Bye, the girl said with just her lips. On the road, she looked at the flickering trees, but did not see them, thinking about her new acquaintance. Finally, the familiar outlines of houses appeared ahead. A smile appeared on the girl's face. She imagined how Maddie would meet her now. She got off the bus and headed towards her house. Everything was familiar here. Elizabeth greeted the locals along the way. She was already at her gate when she saw Arnold. Hi, he approached her. What are you doing here? She didn't want to talk to this man. Wanting to ask how he was doing, the girl could see he wasn't sober. She pushed him away a little and walked through the gate. He didn't dare follow her. Daughter, hello. A woman came out on the porch. Why did you come to meet me on purpose? Elizaveta couldn't understand. No, I thought your ex-husband was gonna bang again. She pointed to the gate. Wasn't this the first time? The girl was very surprised why no one had told her this before. Yes, sorry I didn't tell you. The mother walked into the house, waiting for her daughter to catch up with her. And what he needed here, different thoughts about the baby and everything else, immediately began to pop into his head. Nothing, a drink or money for a bottle. She heard the answer to her question. Wow, Elizabeth stood up and froze. There was no telling how long she would stand like that and what she would think about. Mom, there was a hurricane coming at her from the room. Maddie, hey, she hugged her. Why were you gone so long? The girl clung to her mother's neck with a deadly grip. I'm sorry, love, but we'll be together soon. She knew for sure we would be. Okay, granddaughter, let mommy pass, took her in her grandmother's arms. I missed you so much. Elizabeth looked at her mother. Yes, let's go to the table. They all sat there together. Well, are you ready for the holiday? Elizabeth leaned over to the child. No, we don't even have a Christmas tree, the little girl said sadly. It's okay, we'll find her today. Her mom kissed her. Yay, started bouncing around the kitchen. As Elizabeth had promised, she bought a small Christmas tree. They set it up in the room, decorated it with toys, and now the holiday felt real. And the presents? The girl looked under the tree. Wait, Santa Claus hasn't made it to our house yet, Elizabeth laughed. At night, she prepared everything, packed it all nicely, and tomorrow, as soon as they sat down at the table, she would put it all under the festive tree. Everything went as Elizabeth had planned. Her daughter was so happy with the doll that she did not sit at the table at all. And when the women came into the room, They only smiled when they saw her sleeping with the new toy in her arms. "So, how are things going in town?" the woman asked, so they could talk to each other at last. It was okay. There really wasn't much to tell. She didn't want to talk about the last encounter because nothing was clear. They raised their glasses, congratulated each other, and drank. After the party, they put the dishes away and went to their room. "Well, it's time for me to go back to school. Elizabeth has been home for a week." "May all be well," mother and daughter hugged her. "I'm going to miss you very, very much," cried the girl. Just like me, Elizabeth didn't want to cry, but a single tear slid treacherously down her cheek. That was it. Her mother took her by the hand and went to walk her to the gate. "Bye," headed the girl towards the station. Everything in the dormitory was the same as before. Nothing had changed in the week they hadn't been there. They had to start studying again. "Elizabeth, there's someone there to see you." One of the female students came into her room. "Thank you." She speculated who it might be. When the girl came downstairs, she saw Michael, as she expected. Today he was wearing a tracksuit, which was very suitable for a young man. Yes, young. It was the first time Elizabeth had seen him in an overcoat and thought he was a man. "Hi," she approached him. He couldn't wait for all these celebrations to be over. He looked up. The janitor was standing there watching them. He gave Elizabeth a hand and looked at the exit. The girl immediately understood everything. She said that she had to change, and in a minute she would be outside. And so it was agreed. "Where are you going?" Victoria stood looking at her. Elizaveta didn't usually leave the dormitory at all. "I'll tell you all about it later," the roommate said, embarrassed. She grabbed her jacket, put on her shoes, and went out into the hallway. Michael stood on the porch. "Okay, I'm ready." She walked over to him. "I'm very happy about that." He looked her over from head to toe. They walked just down the street, and when they reached a bench that stood in the shade of a tree, they decided to sit down and talk. "I can't explain it, but there in the store, when you stepped on my foot, I liked you right away," Michael began to say. "Of course, I can't say that. I was very scared at the time." She didn't look at him, but later, I can say that she paid attention to you two. They sat there like two schoolboys who couldn't admit their feelings to each other. On the one hand, it was funny, but on the other hand, it was only the second time they had seen each other. "Can we go to the movies tomorrow?" he asked her. "All right, Elizabeth, something to think about." "How long have you been a student here?" He wanted to know more about her. 6 months. For some reason, she felt ashamed of that answer. "Why do you answer like that?" He couldn't understand. "Many people in my group say I'm a late entrant, but I think it's never too late to learn." Elizabeth pulled some wrappers out of her pocket and fiddled with them. "Why do you even think about it? When you got in, then you got in. Maybe you didn't get the education you wanted, and now you're retraining." He didn't understand what the problem was. They chatted some more, walked around the city, and Michael went to see her off, because Elizabeth said she still had some studying to do. "Don't forget the movie," he told her on the porch. Sure enough, she walked into the dorm, cheeks burning, up to her room. "Tell me, were you on a date?" Victoria sat down to her at once. "Yes, on a date," she told her cryptically. "So, who is he? Where did you meet him?" The roommate was all interested. Elizabeth told her how they had run into each other in the store, and after that, Michael had already recognized her. "Well, wow, as it happens, some people go to bars, restaurants, clubs, cannot meet anyone, and you just stepped on his foot in the store," she laughed. "Oh, Victoria, don't be silly. Nothing is known yet." Elizabeth didn't want to rush things. Michael came every day. It was very pleasant. He was clever, and Elizabeth liked to talk to him about different topics. When the heat came, the girl planned to go to her village again, because there were long holidays ahead. "Are you sure you don't want to take me with you?" Michael asked her. "Do you really want it?" She didn't know what to do or how to be. "You know, I'm the kind of person who, if I do something, I do it thoroughly. If I choose you, I want to do it once, and for life." He took her hands in his, turning her to face him. "So you want to go to my village now to meet my mom?" she concluded. "How clever you are," he kissed her. "Okay, let's go. They've arranged for tomorrow where they'll meet." Elizabeth was very worried. "What are you so worried about?" Victoria asked her tonight. "It's not every day you bring your fiancé and mom to meet," she said. "So what's the big deal? You know, he's nice." "Or what are you worried about?" My friend didn't understand. "How will Maddie take all this?" Elizabeth sighed. "Yes, she'll take it all normally. The man is adequate. The girl should like him. Let him buy her candy. That's all it takes, Victoria advised. Well, your words to God. Elizabeth adjusted the pillow and lay down. Sleep couldn't come for a long time because there were different thoughts in her head, but eventually she fell asleep in the morning. She went to her classes, and after them, she could go to the train station. Elizabeth saw from afar that Michael was already sitting there, waiting for her. Various thoughts came into her head again. How she would bring him to the village, what she would tell her mother, because she had never told about any young men, and now immediately the groom came. But since it was already decided, it had to be done. Here I am, she approached him from behind. And I'm waiting for you. He stood up and put his arm around her. So are you really ready to go to my mom's? She asked him that question again. Of course, why do you ask every time? He couldn't understand. They got on the bus, drove off, talked a lot on the way. Elizabeth showed him different places where she had been, beautiful views of the river. She promised him that when everything blooms, you'll see how beautiful it will be. They were pulling into the station when Elizabeth noticed Maddie, and for some reason she got even more excited. Just as they were getting off the bus, Michael heard her. Mommy, Mommy, the little girl ran to her. Hi, honey, she sat down and hugged her daughter. How are you here? Grandmother said that there are long holidays ahead and you'll probably come to us, so we came to meet you, the girl gibbered. Suddenly she stopped and shifted her gaze to Michael. Meet Michael, this is Michael, her mom told her. Hi, Uncle Michael, she extended her hand to him. Hi, he told her and pulled a candy bar out of his pocket. Oh, thank you, I just love those, she said. All this time Elizabeth's mother stood aside and watched the scene. Of course, she did not interfere in her daughter's affairs, deciding that later, when there was time, they would talk privately. Michael, I'd like you to meet my mom, she motioned him over to the woman. Please, he extended his hand to her. Me too, she shook it. After that, everyone went home. It was so peaceful for some reason. Juliet, I'm here for a reason, Michael said that evening as they gathered around the table. I've already realized that. The woman glanced at her daughter. I like Elizabeth very much, and I would like her to be my wife. He reached into his inner pocket and took out a ring. Wow, and silent, Elizabeth stared at the gift. Is Uncle Michael gonna be my daddy? Running around Maddie. Anything is possible. Elizabeth slipped the ring on her finger. They sat there. The mother put her hand on her head, sat there, watching, seeing how happy her daughter was. Then she left them at home and went to a friend's house. You have a good mom, Michael told Elizabeth. Yes, she put the girl on her lap. So, baby, shall we get to know each other? He tickled her. Yes, laughed the one. This time the couple could stay here for only 3 days. After that, Elizaveta had to go to school and Vazia to work. Maddie, now your mother's vacation will come, and we will surely come for you. The young man crouched down in front of her. Yeah, and I get to live with you. She was glad for something that hadn't happened yet. Yes, he raised his eyes to Elizabeth. That's how it worked out. When the girl passed the last exam, they went together again to pick up their daughter. The mother was so much upset. After all, when Elizaveta went to study, she had to quit her job. And now they were leaving her alone. Don't feel bad. You can always come visit us. How's your daughter? Good. Her mother knew she was sure to visit them many more times. Michael moved Elizabeth back to his place, and they brought Maddie there too. Now they had a full-fledged family. All that was left was to get their passports stamped. Are you happy? Michael asked her when they had been together for a month. Very much so, she hugged him. Time flew by quickly. Elizabeth finished her studies, got a job. Maddie went to kindergarten. Michael and Elizabeth were happy that they had such a beautiful daughter. Yes, a daughter, because Maddie almost immediately started calling Michael Daddy. He didn't mind it, but he didn't give up hope that they would have a child together. Today is an important day, my father said as he put on his suit in the morning. My place or yours? Maddie was getting the hang of it. Of course you have, but it's not so easy for us either. He sat down in front of his daughter, adjusted her jacket, helped her put on her briefcase. That's it, let's go. Elizabeth joined them. In her hands was a huge bouquet that consisted of asters and gladioli. They were going to the line, which was the first in the girl's life. Elizabeth was a little worried, and Maddie, on the contrary, was interested in everything. School life is not easy, but it concerns not only children, but also their parents. How are things going at work? Michael asked his wife. It's fine. Why do you ask? She was making pies in the kitchen. You look tired, He helped make the stuffing. No, it was okay. It was just a lot of hassle with Maddie, and it was true. The kids had so much to do at school that their mother couldn't keep up with everything. Why didn't you say anything? I can help. He was willing to do anything to make the family happy. Then see today what they are doing there. The girl was already in the 4th grade. She was bright, but still did not understand a lot. Only after a deep understanding of the topic she did everything correctly. Good, it was mutual in their family, each helping the other. Maddie, get up. You'll be late for the dance, her mother shouted from the kitchen. Can I not go today? The girl was in 7th grade. She used to go everywhere without reservation. Now she started to be stubborn. No, it won't work like that, like going out with your girlfriends. Then you are always ready. Here too you have to try. Elizabeth walked into the room and looked at her daughter. Okay, reluctantly she got up. There, that's better, went the mom, giving her daughter time to change. Maddie was going to the dance class, which she had grown tired of. She'd been going since 1st grade, and now that everyone was older, she didn't want to waste any more time on it. Maddie, where are you going? Her friends greeted her. To the dance, she rolled her eyes. Let's go for a walk. Why do you need them? They urged her. Okay, it's okay to skip once. She looked around as if she was afraid her mother was watching her. They gathered in one of the courtyards because there was also a group of older guys there. They didn't pay attention to the girls, but they still came to them every day. Hi, walked Maddie and her friends past the young men. Yeah, they didn't even turn around. They weren't interested in the little ones. Why don't they even look in our direction? Asked Stasha, who liked Pierce. Because they have other interests, Maddie answered her. The girls didn't waste the opportunity. They were in that yard every day. Come here, Arthur beckoned to Maddie. What? She didn't expect to be called. The school year was almost at an end, with only a few days left until vacation. Go on, come on, her girlfriends whispered to her. Leave that if their girlfriends started hanging out with a guy like that, they might get lucky too. Hi, she approached him. What were you standing there so long with him? He asked about his friends. Talking about you, she told him honestly. A boy and a girl began a serious relationship. Now they rarely sat in this courtyard as a group. More often Arthur came to pick up Maddie, and they went for walks. Who's that guy visiting you? Her mother asked her once. His name is Arthur. We've been friends for a couple months now. She blushed as she mentioned this to her mother. Why don't you bring him to visit? Introduce him? The woman was afraid because the guy was 5 years older. I don't know. It's not time yet, she shrugged. Why are you picking on her? Michael intervened in their conversation. Well, how come? I'm a mother. I need to know who my daughter is socializing with. Elizabeth didn't understand him. Your daughter is 13 until she's old enough to choose her own suitors. We'll change them more than once, laughed Michael. It's good for you to reason. You don't worry like I do, she sighed. Now Elizabeth began to watch her daughter more carefully. She was afraid that a grown-up boy could do something. But Arthur showed himself on the good side. The girl always came home on time. At school she studied well, and so, after some time, Elizabeth let go of this situation. At school there was an autumn ball, and of course after a disco. Will you come? Maddie asked Arthur. You're inviting me. I didn't feel like going to school, but if his girl's going, he should be with her. When they got there in the evening, they saw that the girl with who the boy had once been friends was also there. Maddie was dancing in a circle with her friends, and suddenly she felt someone pushing her back. She turned around and saw Nadia, Arthur's ex. What do you want? She asked her. And there's nothing to look at other people's boyfriends, much less be friends with them, she replied. You broke up. We started being friends. What's the big deal? Maddie didn't understand. We didn't break up. I just wanted to teach him a lesson, and you see how it turned out, the girl said haughtily. Well, who did you teach a lesson to? Yourself, laughed Maddie. Things were getting so heated between them that things were heading for a fight. Fuck you, she said to Nadia, and pushed at her shoulder. She grabbed her by the hair, and a real scuffle broke out. Nadia's friends wanted to protect her friend, but the girls who were with Maddie didn't stand still either. Arthur stood aside and only smiled at that. The whole situation was funny. After the teachers who were on duty at the disco had separated them, Maddie approached Arthur. Are you laughing? She asked him. Uh-huh, he replied. Yeah, and fuck you. She turned around and headed for the exit. Wait, he followed her, but Maddie didn't want to listen to him. She was shaking with anger, not at the fact that she'd just gotten into a fight, but at having to fight over some guy. She'd never been down like this before. At home, she let the tears flow. "Daughter, what's wrong?" Mom ran into the room. "Nothing, please leave me alone," she begged. The girl walked, her legs beginning to shake. Arthur was only a few meters away, but it seemed to her that he was miles away from her. When finally Maddie was close by, the boy laughed. "Did you call me here to laugh?" She didn't understand, and somehow her courage came at once. "No, it's just you're shaking like a leaf." He took her hand. "I can't help it," Maddie was telling the truth. "Okay, let's go. There's business to attend to." He beckoned her over to the others. "Hey," she came over. "Listen," without greeting the guy started talking, "we need you to come to the disco with us." "Why?" The girl realized they had some kind of plan. "Our girls decided that we couldn't find anyone else. They blew us off, so we'll show them that we don't care," they explained to her. She turned to her friends and waved for them to come over to her. They were just waiting for that. They were there at the same moment. Maddie recounted the story to them. "We agree, those have already imagined that they will come to the disco with them, how their classmates will be jealous. Then it's settled, we'll see you here on Saturday." Arthur looked at Maddie and smiled. She must have fallen in love with him at that very moment. "Maddie, I found out you've been skipping the dance." Her mother came to her room. "Did your teacher call you?" The girl didn't understand. "There is one class left before the end of the year. At least go to it," the woman requested. "And I won't go from September?" she asked the woman. "We'll see," Elizabeth quipped. On Saturday, the girls had been at Maddie's house practically since lunchtime. They were putting on makeup, picking out what to wear. "Man, it doesn't seem too bright," turned to her friends Maddie. No, it was fine. They approved of what she did. But the girls still cleaned up a little of the makeup with wipes. Finally, they were ready. It was still more than 2 hours before the event started, so everyone gathered in the same courtyard. "Hi, the guys finally came." Now they were chatting like old friends. "Let's go." Maddie glanced at Arthur. Yep, he smiled at her. Maddie walked up to him and took him under her arm. It was very cool for her. Arthur was in charge of the company, and now she was walking beside him. "Why so much makeup?" the guy asked on the way out. "Yeah, I knew it." She regretted not cleaning as much as she wanted. Listened to her friends. Ahead showed the DK, where the disco was held. My knees began to tremble. "What if your girls start fighting with us?" Maddie asked, for some reason that had just occurred to her. "They won't. And if they do, we're always there for them," he answered her. Good. She believed Arthur could handle everything. That night was just as the guys had planned. Those girls were only a year older than Maddie and her friends. As soon as they saw that they had come with their friends, they started talking. When Maddie went outside, they hurried to be there too. "You're aware they're ours," one of the girls said. "It was yours, now it's ours," Maddie didn't hesitate to say. They bickered some more and then went back into the hall. A slow dance began. Arthur approached Maddie, and they danced, her eyes glittering as she saw the rival's eyes glaze over. "Let's get out of here," the guy called out to her. "What about the girls?" She looked at her friends. "Not little ones, they'll get there on their own." He looked to the same place as the girl. Okay, choosing between the girls and the guys, she favored him. They went outside, it was warm. Maddie took the boy's arm again, and they headed toward where the market had been during the day. "Let's sit here," he beckoned her over to the tray and stood across from her himself. Good, she liked the way he treated her. "You're cool," he touched her. "You too," she smiled, she felt good now. "What if we start being friends?" he suggested. "Come on," she couldn't believe she was saying that. "Come on, I'll walk you out now, and tomorrow come to the yard." He gave her a hand to help her get down from where she was sitting. The next day, as promised, he was waiting for her where they always met. "Maddie, are you really dating?" Her friends looked at her in surprise. "Yes, he suggested it himself yesterday," she told them. She looked down on them as if she was looking down on them. "All right, I'm gonna go." Maddie headed in Arthur's direction. The girls kept up. No, I want to know why my daughter is crying." She crouched on the edge of the bed. "He turned out to be just like everyone else," cried the girl. "Calm down, there's no reason to suffer over them like that," stroked her head the woman. "Mom, you don't understand. Nothing could help her that night. Her mother brought her some warm milk, which she drank and went to bed. She went to school in the morning, then came home, and never went out again. She really didn't want to see Arthur, but when she didn't come to the yard, the guy thought he should go to her himself. He knocked on the door, waited a long time to be opened. Elizabeth appeared on the threshold. "Hello, can I talk to Maddie?" he asked her. "No," the mother replied. "Why?" He didn't understand. "You hurt her badly yesterday and she doesn't want to communicate with you today," the woman said. Since I had hurt her, just didn't want to get involved in their fight, and that was it. He looked inside the apartment but didn't see Maddie there. "She said you broke up." The woman was looking for something in her bag. "Just call her and that's it," the young man insisted. "Okay." She went to the room where Maddie was, told her everything. The girl went out onto the landing, closing the door behind her. "Why are you doing this?" Arthur asked her. "That's it, you can go to your Nadia. You and I are no longer together," she answered him. It was sad to hear, but there was nothing left to do, and Arthur just left. They broke up. Maddie suffered, but soon the learning process, dance class, and everything else squeezed the sadness out of her. She still went out with the girls. Arthur tried to approach her once more at the disco, but she didn't want to be with him. And then he disappeared from the city. Nobody saw him or knew where he was. "So to the store?" The father looked at his daughter. "Yes," she nodded her head. Maddie was finishing 11th grade, so she needed to buy a nice dress and shoes. "Oh, I can't even believe school is behind us," the woman said to her daughter. "I can't believe it myself," she admitted honestly. "Okay, enough about that, come on. Pick out a dress." Michael pointed to the rows of beautiful evening gowns. Maddie did nothing but change dresses and twirl in front of the mirror. They all looked good on her, but she chose the one she thought was the prettiest. At the graduation, they all stood together. Teachers and the principal congratulated them and said some words of encouragement. After that, they moved to the hall, where the tables were already set. When the fun was in full swing, a friend pushed Maddie in the side. She looked up and saw Arthur walking toward them. "Can I talk to you?" He came up to the girls. "No," she said and turned away. She didn't want to talk to him or see him at all. "Why you don't want to socialize? I don't understand at all why things fell apart with you then. You wouldn't leave," he insisted on his own. "Okay, let's go." Maddie left the table and walked with Arthur toward the exit. She didn't want to get into it in front of everyone. "Outside?" he clarified. "Yes," she nodded. They walked out of the school. "Tell me, why are we together?" he asked. "What are you talking about? It's been so many years and you show up and ask why we're not together?" She was very surprised. "All this time I remembered you, wanted us to be together. You wanted to hug the girl." "I forgot to ask." She didn't look at the guy. "Give me a chance," he pleaded. "Come back tomorrow. Maybe something will work out." She walked back to where everyone else was. But Arthur didn't wait until tomorrow. He saw all the graduates begin to board the bus. He knew where they were going. There was a sunrise meeting ahead. "Maddie," he approached her from behind. "God, why scare him like that?" She turned to him. "I love you and I want to be with you." He hugged the girl. At that moment, she gasped. It was so beautiful. The dawn was just beginning, and here he was, confessing his love. "Okay, let's try again," she smiled. Arthur said nothing. He kissed her shoulder, then her neck. "Mom, I'm home," she came the next day. That was a nice walk. She saw her daughter's makeup smudged a little. "What's your view?" She pointed to her face. "I need to tell you something." Maddie went into the room and started to change. "Something serious?" The woman tensed up. "Arthur and I are back together again." She didn't turn around. "What? Why do you need him?" "You know what I heard about him?" My mom couldn't believe it, because they say you can't walk into the same river twice. You know until you step on your own rake, nothing works. My daughter was in her pajamas. She was going to get some sleep. "Michael, can you imagine? They're back together." The wife went out into the other room, and she was saying this to her husband. "Stay out of it. Things could happen fast now," he warned. "You know what Leslie told me about him?" She sat down next to him. "And what is it?" He was ready to listen. "He uses not only alcohol, but a lot of other things," Elizabeth whispered. "Oh, it's all your gossip." Michael couldn't believe it. "Okay, we'll see what happens." Elizabeth wanted her daughter to be happy. She needed to enroll, but because of her meetings with her boyfriend, she didn't want to leave this town. "Let's go together," she suggested to her. "Are you serious?" She was so excited. She was ready to go anywhere. They lived together, and Arthur did drink a lot, bringing strange people home with him. Maddie didn't like it, but she kept quiet because she loved Arthur and didn't want to fight with him. "Where are you going at night?" she asked him as he was about to leave. "It's none of your business," he'd leave. Come back in the morning, and when Maddie pestered for an explanation, lie to her. Sometimes the girl complained to her mother, she cried, told her to leave him. But Maddie couldn't. She loved this man so much that she stayed with him. "If this keeps up, it won't be long before we break up," she warned him. "Come on," he was hugging the girl. "You'll see," she threatened him with her finger. Arthur was afraid that the girl would leave him because the apartment they lived in was rented by her father. Therefore, after they fought, the guy took all measures to make up. Once Arthur decided to relax a little, went to a bar, which was not far from home. He went to the bar, where another young man was sitting. "Can I have a drink?" Arthur asked the bartender. "Of course," replied the man. "Is it bad to?" The one who was sitting there asked him. "Don't you get?" Arthur moved toward him. "Austin," the stranger held out his hand. "Arthur," the man replied. Pleasantly, the young man was dressed normally. He was sitting there just drinking. At that moment, Arthur was also poured. He lifted the glass and looked at his new acquaintance. "Come on, cheers to us," Austin said. They started talking, all the while drinking. "What's your problem?" Arthur asked the young man. "Oh, that's a long story," he grumbled and waved it away. "It's hard to sit here alone and pour." He looked at the counter where one glass after another was being placed. "Very much so," exhaled the man. "Tell," was ready to listen and support, already almost a friend. "What's to tell? We were living normally, and then it started." He took the glass again. "With his wife?" Arthur clarified. "Yep." He looked off in the distance. More people had come into the bar. "So what, you cheated?" The guy was pulling words out of Austin. "I was a regular guy then. I was in college. I knew a lot of things, and I knew how to do a lot of things." Austin began his story. "I see." Arthur prepared to listen. Bethany had come to pick up some paperwork. We bumped into each other in the hallway. Everything fell out of her hands, and I sat down to help her pick it up. One of the forms said something about oil deposits. I wondered, asked, at which point Austin stopped talking. He decided to wet his throat again. "Wow, were they oil tycoons?" Arthur was all ears now. "You could say that, but I didn't know it at the time. I had only seen the papers. Our institute specialized just on this topic, so I was interested. I began to tell what I knew, and Bethany walked on and smiled. As it turned out later, she only works with documentation and doesn't understand anything about it." Austin shook his head. "Wow, like a fairy tale." Arthur gazed mesmerized at his new acquaintance. "That's what I thought at the time. We met, he asked me out. I don't know who liked me better, her father or herself, but from that moment on, I was part of their family." He puckered his lips as if remembering something. "Why the father?" I didn't understand the interlocutor. He was sick of his job. Once he got a half-empty well, as many people thought. But he developed it, dug next to it, and there was oil. He's been in business ever since. I knew a lot about the subject. We talked to him for hours a day. And then he told his daughter that I was perfect for marriage. Austin sighed heavily. "And you got married?" Arthur guessed. "Yeah, we started living together, working with my dad. I thought Bethany and I were made for each other, that we'd always be together, never be apart. And she did this to me." He took another sip. "What did you do?" Now Arthur was very interested in the story. "As long as I was a simple guy, she loved me, and then everything changed. We started working, I started having money. We built a house, bought everything we needed. One day I came home and she was making out with our driver, and it looked like Austin was about to cry." "Wow," shook his head at his new buddy. "That's what I thought too, and I asked her to come to her senses and come back, and she said I'd become like her father. So 7 years of our marriage went down the drain." He took the glass and drank it all down. They exchanged phone numbers. Austin promised to keep in touch with him and to get him a job. As Austin had had enough, he went home. Arthur volunteered to walk him home, but it seemed that a car was waiting for him. "That's it. Come on, I'll call you tomorrow," he told his new friend. When he got home, he told Maddie nothing. She looked at her husband, who was staggering from side to side. She didn't talk to him. She just went to bed. Arthur sat there thinking how he could get money out of his new boyfriend. "I'm off to study," she told him this morning, got dressed and left, doesn't even know if he heard or not. The couple's relationship was very strained. Maddie was even beginning to think that her mother was right when she told her that this guy was no match for her. Hi, at this point Arthur dialed Austin's number. Hello, the man remembered who was calling him. You promised to think about getting me a job, the young man reminded him. Yes, he agreed, only because he always kept his promise. Come to my office. Arthur was very cheerful. He walked, and on the way he thought, just to get a grip, and then he would think of something. Hello, a well-dressed man greeted him. Hello, for some reason, Arthur's getting agitated. Come in, I have something for you. He opened the door for him. Okay, thanks. He was trying to be polite. They sat and talked for a long time, and at the end Austin said that he was taking Arthur into production as a specialist. It was a happy thing. They said goodbye, and Arthur went home. Maddie, I got a job, he told the girl. I congratulate you, she said cheerlessly. Why so sluggish? He stood up and walked over to her. Don't, she already knew what he was going to start doing. Okay, look, don't regret it later, and he left the house again. Maddie breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't know what to do with this relationship. Arthur went to work. He asked his boss to walk with him. It was for a reason. He wanted everyone to see who had brought him here. This is where you'll be working, Austin showed me. Well, who's going to explain it to me? Only ask the new employee. Ask the boys, he pointed to the brigade. Thank you, they shook hands, and Austin went off to his room. So men, come on, explain to me. Arthur wanted to understand the principle of what would have to be done. They started showing him one thing and another. Everything was easy and clear. Now he started coming here every day. But not much time passed when the young man started to get more and more absent from work. Okay, you do this and you do that, he commanded. Why should you do it? You should be doing it. Other workers resented. You want me to tell Austin what you guys are really doing here? He called his boss that on purpose to show how close friends they were. The guys were afraid of losing their jobs, so they did what they were told. In the evening, Arthur went straight into his boss's office. What do you say we hit the bar? He'd sit down on a chair. You know, I'm a little busy today. He didn't know how to tell the man to leave. Today, I saw your workers taking something out of the territory, Arthur said, as if in passing. What exactly? The supervisor tensed. He often saw that there were fewer new parts than there should be. I don't know, but they were still talking about it afterwards, realized the young man had hit the mark. Okay, can you show me who? Austin got up from the table. Sure, agreed the guy. Maybe the boys were really taking something out of the territory. No one knew. But when Arthur pointed them out and they were punished, they were now avoiding him. Remember when you asked me to go to the bar? Austin met Arthur after work. Yeah, he was waiting for the warden to call him. You can today, he pointed to the car. Arthur slowed down on purpose. He wanted more workers to get out of the factory and then defiantly got into his friend's car. So back to where we met. Austin looked at him. Come on. Arthur didn't care where they went as long as they got close to the money. He'd been getting paid for a long time and doing nothing himself. As soon as someone complained about someone or said something that would expose the employees, Austin would immediately punish or fire them. Congratulations to you. Raised his glass to the boss. With what? The comrade didn't understand. With us working together, the man smiled. Ah, yes, come on, they chugged and drank. After that, the friends sat and chatted about many things, and then decided to disperse. When everyone came to production the next day, many were summoned to the director's office. Some of them were fired, others were reprimanded. Why do we have to keep quiet? One asked the other in the corridor. Exactly, we've already been fired. What's the use of hiding it? The man rushed back into the office. You and I have it all figured out. Austin looked at the entrance. No, we have a statement, they said firmly. Speak, the chief was ready to listen. Do you know what your protégé does all day long? One of them asked. You mean Arthur? Austin couldn't understand. About himself, they confirmed. What's he doing? I wanted to hear what the employees had to say now. He walks around, commands, does nothing, makes us do nothing, and then tells you things that didn't really happen, slings like a machine gun man. I don't believe you. Arthur is a good man. Didn't believe them, boss. And you watch, the men advised him and left the office. I don't understand anything. Austin looked out the window. In the evening, he called his friend again for a sit-down. Of course, he wouldn't tell him anything, but he wanted to see how and what he was doing. Come to my place. I'll introduce you to my girlfriend, Arthur said. Oh, let's not today. I didn't want to go like this, Austin. What are you talking about? Let's go. The guy put up his hand. Good. Austin couldn't turn him down again. They got into the car and drove off. They stopped at Arthur's house and went to the entrance. Are you sure you'll be comfortable? Austin was worried. He didn't want to disturb people. It's all right, Arthur assured him. They walked into the apartment. Maddie was surprised, wanting to kick him out at first. But when she saw Austin, she realized he wasn't going to stay with her boyfriend until morning. Hello, he told her. Hello, Arthur repeated after his superior. Come in, she pointed toward the kitchen. Why did you go to your room, or did you clean up again? He started to step on her. That had never happened before, so Maddie's face stretched. Why do you do that? The guest looked at him judgmentally. She didn't deserve any other way, Arthur assured him. Come on, Austin felt ashamed, even though he wasn't the one saying those words. The host set a table in front of the couch, and they sat down. Maddie started carrying snacks from the kitchen and anything else Arthur asked for. Thank you, Austin liked the girl. She didn't say anything, just walked back and forth. Have a seat with us, he asked her. No thanks, she looked at him. Don't you get it? Arthur shouted. Why are you doing this? Do you want to seem cool or the master of life? Austin didn't understand. And that she refuses when respectable people ask. He shrugged as if he had nothing to do with it. If you don't want to, you don't have to do it. After saying that, Maddie left for the kitchen. I'll be right back, her boyfriend said, and followed her. What? She turned to him as he entered the kitchen and closed the doors. Is it okay what you've done here? He hissed. How? She couldn't understand what had happened to him. What? Austin didn't understand. $1 million and she's yours, not a muscle flinched on Arthur's face. And if I report you for carrying from the factory, you pointed to the monitor. Oh, you, Arthur, see you tomorrow. He kissed her on the cheek, as if he was afraid someone would see. Elizabeth walked home. She couldn't believe all that had happened. Her body was burning, still remembering Arnold's kisses. Why are you like this? Her mother looked at her. Which one? The girl didn't understand. I don't know, the woman shrugged. You don't know, so don't say so. The girl was embarrassed. She felt like everyone could see and understand what had happened to her today. She lay on the bed and thought about her boyfriend. It had never felt so good. She thought it would be a lifetime. Now they would graduate from high school. A whole different life would begin. Arnold would be the boss of their family and home. Hi, he caught up with her the next day as she was walking to school. Hello, she approached him, but the guy didn't hug her for some reason. Later, he looked around again. I feel like you're embarrassing me, she was offended. What are you talking about? He took her hand. They arrived at the school. Arnold went to his friends again, and Elizabeth remained standing near the porch. Hi, Katie came up behind me. Startled, her friend turned to her. Why are you so frightened? Am I so scary? Laughed the girl. Oh, Katie, don't start. Elizabeth looked over to where her lover stood. What with him? The girlfriend was also looking in the same direction as Elizabeth. Look at him, isn't he handsome? She said fondly. That's it, friend. I see we've lost you. You're gone, Katie concluded. The bell rang and all the boys entered the school building. The bell rang and all the boys entered the school building. Elizabeth remembered her feelings, which she had experienced the day before. It was inexpressible. When the lessons were over, she hurried to the exit. She did not want the guy to leave without her. But she didn't have time, because Arnold was nowhere to be found. What? He's already gone. Laughed her friend behind her back. Katie, leave it alone. It hurt Elizabeth that he hadn't waited for her. She wandered home alone. But when she had only a few meters to go, she heard someone calling her name. Why are you hiding here? She approached the bushes from where Arnold had called her. I'm not hiding. I'm waiting for you. He sounded offended. There she is, me. She spun around in front of him. Come here, he beckoned her to him. Now, Elizabeth looked around and skirted to where her boyfriend was. Samato, why are you looking around? He laughed. Shut up, she blushed again. Yes, she realized now what Arnold was so embarrassed about. The village was small, everyone knew each other. She didn't want anyone telling her mother about them. Shall we? He winked at her. Okay, let's at least leave the bags at home. She looked at her large briefcase. Okay. They walked down the path that led to the girls' house, threw the load there, and headed for the cabin where they had spent time yesterday. Sorry, he tucked a strand behind her ear as they lay on the same mattress again. It was okay. She liked being around him so much, she would always like that. "Would you like to be my wife?" the young man asked. He leaned back. "Would you take it?" She doubted it. First of all, they were still young, and secondly, they had only been dating for a couple of days. "Why not? We'll finish school, go somewhere, and then we can think about marriage," he said dreamily. Elizabeth realized that it would all be not so soon, so she forbade herself to think. He turned to her and hugged her. She brought her face close to his. "You're so beautiful," he started kissing her. "Love you," she responded to those kisses. Again today, they spent the whole day in their hiding place. Elizabeth could come and go freely from the house without anyone knowing where she was or with whom she was. Her mother, as always, was very busy, so her daughter did what she wanted. "That's it, bye. See you tomorrow," they said goodbye at her gate. "Mom?" The girl entered the house, but there was silence in response. They started dating Arnold. Elizabeth didn't need any girlfriends, parties, and discos anymore. She wanted to be only with him, and she saw nothing else. "Why don't you get up?" Her mother came up to her in the morning. "I can't, it's bad, I feel sick," Elizabeth replied. Seeing that she was very pale, her mother touched her head. "Not going to school today." Elizabeth leaned her head off the bed. She spun around. "Good," petted her mom. The woman left, and Elizabeth remained lying in bed. There was only one pity. She would not meet Arnold. But the girl was wrong. He was already at her house in the afternoon. "Elizabeth," he shouted at the gate. She heard him, but she couldn't even get up to open it.
"You have no idea how much I love coming to visit you." Olivia looked at the man who was the director of the orphanage. "And you are always welcome to." He had 2 big bags in his hands. The girl always brought a lot of gifts for the children. Today, she had come to please the kids. "I'll go to my favorites," she said, and entered the building. Yes, yes, followed by a man. He had known this girl for a long time. At first, he thought she was strange, but then when he got to know her better, he realized that she was just unhappy. "Hi," walked the girl into the group to the kids. Olivia had arrived. They ran to her and hugged her. Sometimes the kids could just pile her on the floor, but that just made it fun. "Look what I brought you." She stuck her hands in her pockets, and from there she pulled out palms full of little candies. "Hurrah!" cheered the little ones. It was so peaceful and joyful during her time there. The girl even tried to get a job at the institution, but something kept getting in the way. At first, there were no vacancies, and her education was not suitable, but Olivia liked to just come and be with the kids. "Olivia, would you like to come in before you leave?" The principal stopped by. "Okay." She looked at him and smiled. Victor wasn't old, but he couldn't be called young either. Olivia remembered the first time she saw him. He had looked at her like she was crazy, but he, like the others, Olivia didn't pay attention to him. And afterwards, when they got to know each other a little better, the man realized it was just an outlet. "Are you going to lunch?" Looked at Olivia from her friend. They worked in accounting. "No, I can't. I don't have time." She turned away from the monitor. With the whole day ahead of her, Maria didn't want to go alone. "Okay." Olivia took another look at the numbers, put her pen on the desk, and got up from her chair. "That's good," rejoiced her friend. She wouldn't have to eat alone. They went outside, reached the nearest cafe, and took a table. "It's so nice outside, and we have to sit in this office and work," Maria said and looked out the window. Yes, Olivia was thinking about something else. She looked around the room. There were a lot of people who were having lunch, just like the girls. Suddenly, her eyes caught on something. Olivia didn't even realize what it was. When she realized that a young man was looking at her, a few seconds had passed. She looked away, but it was too late. He was heading towards their table. "Hello," the guy approached his friends. "Hi," Maria stared at him in surprise. Never before had anyone approached them to get acquainted at lunch. "Jack." He pulled up another chair and sat down with them at the table. "Maria, and this is Olivia." She pointed at her friend. "Nice to meet you." The young man looked at the girl. "And to us." Her friend shifted her gaze to her as well. "You looked at me so much that I thought we knew each other, but I couldn't remember where from. So I decided to approach you." He turned to Olivia. "I'm sorry, it's just, I was thinking. I got hung up," she blushed. "Wow, I'm sitting here, eating, and they have such passion and unnoticeable," Maria said indignantly. "It's okay." The friend was very embarrassed. They'll get to know each other, and then they'll get married. It seems that everything happened in front of your eyes and you did not notice anything. Maria sat and talked, but no one listened to her. Why are you looking at me like that? Olivia couldn't stand the young man's gaze any longer. I don't know, you have beautiful eyes, he told her. Thank you. She took a sip of tea, which was the last in the mug, stood up. Are you leaving already? He followed her example and stood up as well. How are we leaving? I haven't finished yet. Maria looked at her plate. Good, finish eating. I'll wait for you outside. Olivia headed for the exit. She realized that the young man wouldn't just leave, so she didn't want to stress him out. But Jack wasn't going to leave her behind. He was following Olivia. Wait, he caught up with her. What else? I think I showed you that I don't want to hang out with you. She looked him in the eye. Why were you looking like that then? He still couldn't find an answer to that question. Look, I have so much work. I'm loaded every day. Just turned around. My brain decided to rest. I thought about it. That's why I stopped looking at you, Olivia explained again. Here, he held out a small piece of paper to her. What's this? She looked at it. My phone number, in case I get lucky and you call. The guy smiled. Here I am. Maria walked out of the place. Bye. Olivia waved goodbye to her new acquaintance. She took his number, but she wasn't going to call him. The girls returned to the office, each doing her own work. How about some tea? Maria suggested after a couple hours. Okay, Olivia agreed. The numbers were flashing in front of her eyes, so she needed a distraction. You want to tell me about it? They sat with cups in their hands. About what? Olivia didn't understand. What did he say to you on the street? Was interested in her friend. Did you like him? Olivia laughed, realizing that there were situations like that. Yeah, she looked away. Okay, here, she handed her Jack's number. That's his number? Maria couldn't believe it. Yes, the girl smiled. She was pleased to do something good for the one who had been around since childhood. But she did not yet know what exactly she had just done. In the evening, the girls went home. They lived together too, because in a foreign city, it was easier to rent an apartment like that. Do you think to call? Maria held the phone in her hands. I don't know, just meet somewhere away from me. Olivia realized that nothing would work out as long as she was around. I'm not afraid, she said proudly. I am. Olivia laughed back. They ate dinner and went about their business. Maria was going out on the weekends, and they often spent time apart. You're not even going to ask. She stopped at the door. No, why? I'm not interested, she said. Okay, offended Maria was. Yesterday she called Jack, said that she was going to go to the club on Saturday. He got excited, said he wouldn't mind relaxing too. She was so happy, but there was no one to share it with. She was walking down the sidewalk, a song playing in her head that Maria was repeating. She saw Jack waiting for her. Hi. She walked over and gave him a hug. Why are you alone? The young man was confused. Who am I supposed to be with? She realized he was talking about Olivia, but made a silly face. Okay, let's go. He took the girl's hand and they went inside. The young people went to the bar where they ordered their cocktails, and then Maria went to dance. Well, why are you sitting here so sad? She came up to Jack a few times. Just no Olivia. He looked at the entrance as if he was waiting for Olivia to go in there now. Why did you agree to come with me then? She didn't understand. I thought you were coming with a friend, he admitted. Why didn't you bring a friend? Maria was chatty after the cocktail. Did you come to dance? He looked at the girl. Yes, she nodded. Here, go and dance. He was already not happy that he agreed. Maria went. Jack looked after her. He wanted to order something else. He turned around and saw that there was a phone on the bar. He looked, and there was a picture of Maria and Olivia on the screen. The young man realized this was his chance. He quickly went into his contacts, found the number he needed, transcribed it, and returned the phone to its place. Maria, he called out to the girl. What? She came in happy. I should probably go, he said, and showed her that she had left her phone behind. Okay, bye. It's boring with you anyway. She went back, where she found some new acquaintances. Jack walked home. His phone was burning his pocket. He wanted to call the girl, but he couldn't do it all at once. A few days passed, and one day Jack decided to do it. He dialed the number and waited for Olivia to answer. Hello, he heard the phone ring. Hi, he was a little worried. Who is this? Was annoyed with the girl. Olivia, didn't you recognize me? It's me, Jack. He realized that they had only talked once. She might not have remembered his voice. Imagine not. It was audible that she had no intention of talking. Look, don't hang up, Jack pleaded with her. Talk. She was ready to hear him out. Why are you being so negative? He didn't understand it. I don't know. At that moment, Olivia thought to herself, what had he done to her that she was doing this to him? Maybe we could get together and talk. He hoped for a positive answer. Okay, just not today, the girl agreed. Olivia hung up the phone. She sat down on the couch and thought about the young man's words. No one in her life she had never communicated with as much as with him. And then the girl thought that it could be because she had caught his eye and not him. But on the other hand, he had come up to them, hadn't he? She decided that as soon as Jack made an appointment with her, she'd take it. Olivia, she heard Maria's voice. Yes, she looked up. I called you 3 times already. Where are you hovering? Her friend sat down next to her. Jack called me. Did you give him my number? Olivia looked at her. No, Maria thought back to when they were together. Where did he get it then? The girl couldn't figure it out. Well, okay, it doesn't matter anymore. What does it say? Was interested in her friend. Calling to meet, Olivia answered. She looked to see what Maria's reaction would be. The girl didn't want to fight with her about some young man. It's okay. He's a bore. She realized why they were looking at her like that. Okay, Olivia agreed then. She was ready to meet the guy. Hi, he called the next day. Hello. Olivia's mind was no longer as Olivia as it had been a few days ago. So, are you ready to talk to me? He rushed their meeting. Okay, let's go out this weekend. She finally gave in. I'm glad to hear that. They said goodbye, and he disconnected. After the call, Olivia's mood rose. I don't understand you, friend. You don't want to see him and talk to him. And then, so happy after talking to Jack, Maria walked next to him. I don't know what's going on, her friend admitted. They came home. Olivia began to think about where the young man would invite her and what she would wear. It was also important what they would talk about. With these thoughts, the girl went to bed. Did you call? Maria asked Saturday morning. No, Olivia checked her phone. Well, I have to go. She was going somewhere in the morning. Okay, bye. Olivia was in the kitchen getting ready for breakfast. Good luck. Her friend sent her a kiss goodbye. No sooner had the door slammed behind her than the phone vibrated. Hello. She picked up the phone. The screen showed the name of the person she was going out with tonight. Wow, there wasn't even a dial tone, he marveled. The phone was just there, she thought. Jack's about to think she couldn't wait for him to call. What are you doing? The man was simply interested. Having breakfast, the girl looked at the scrambled eggs and coffee that were on the table. How I wish I was next to you right now, he said dreamily. Stop it. Olivia never liked this kind of talk. I'll shut up. I was afraid she'd change from grace to anger again. What did you want? She reminded him that he was the one calling. To talk about tonight. In turn, he reminded her that they were meeting tonight. Yes, I remember. Where are we meeting? She wanted to eat and go to the bathroom. Since you and I don't have any places in common yet, let's go to that cafe where we met, he suggested to her. Okay, I'll be there at 6. She waited for him to say bye and let her finally have breakfast. Are you upset? He wasn't going to be. Jack, if I don't have my coffee now, I'm not only going to be upset, I'm going to be angry, Olivia told him directly. I got it. See you later. He hung up. All day long, the girl had been cleaning herself up. First, she took a bath as she wanted, and after that, she made a few masks on her face. The girl sat in front of the mirror. She looked at herself and thought about how to put on makeup today, or better not to do it at all. Olivia stood up and went to the closet. She had allocated so much time to preparations for nothing. There were so many thoughts. In the end, she ended up wearing a simple dress that she would be comfortable in. She looked at her watch. It was still an hour before 6, but Olivia decided to go to that cafe. She would sit there and order something. The place was crowded. Maybe it was because it was a day off and everyone wanted to relax. You're here already? She wasn't expecting it, so she flinched. Yes, she turned around and saw Jack. Sorry to startle you. He took a seat on the chair that was across from her. No, it's okay. I just wasn't expecting you so early. Olivia couldn't seem to calm down. Did you order anything yet? He saw that there was nothing on the table. Not yet, that was true. The waiter hadn't gotten to her yet. That's good, then we'll order together. He was glad. Okay, the waiter finally approached them and served the menu. The young man and girl quickly chose what they wanted to order, sat, and waited for everything to be brought to them. Maybe some wine? The boy dared to suggest. Maybe, Olivia thought, it would relax her. Jack went to the bar himself, not waiting for anyone else to approach them. After everything was on the table, the young man poured wine into glasses. He wanted to drink to the acquaintance with such a beautiful girl. You embarrass me, blushed Olivia. I remember you talking to me differently a while ago. He winked at her. I don't know why I did that. He winked at her. I don't know why I did that. She didn't say what she thought about it. Okay, let's be serious then. In the cafe, I liked you, even very much. He looked at the girl, and he was pleased that she is now with him next to him and not running somewhere else. My eye was on you for a reason. Olivia smiled. Maybe we could try to build a relationship. He took a risk and decided to ask right off the bat. Out of the blue, she hadn't expected such a turn of events. Well, what do you expect? Jack was smiling. Okay, I suggest we just talk first, and then we'll see, Olivia agreed. They sat there until closing time, Jack telling her who he was and where he was from, and Olivia telling him about her life, though it wasn't as interesting as the young man's. You don't have to see me off, she said when they were outside. Why was that? He wondered, since everything was going so well. I can call a cab, she looked around. And I suggest take a walk. Look at how wonderful the weather is. He walked over to her and propped his elbow on her arm. Good. The girl didn't mind spending a few more minutes with him. The streets were practically deserted. The young men walked slowly, talking about what they were just seeing. Olivia noticed that she had walked down this road so many times, but had never noticed that it could be so romantic here. There's an archway that would be interesting to take a picture under, and some lanterns on the other side. I never realized it was so beautiful. She said out loud what she was thinking. You're funny, the guy laughed. Of course, and you are serious, they teased each other. So they reached the house where the girl lived. I will not ask to visit, or else. There is your friend Maria. He made big eyes. Why are you like that? She didn't understand. Last time when she invited me to the club, I thought she would come with you, so I agreed, he divulged. Okay, you'll be friends. She's nice, Olivia said and walked out the door. Jack went home too, happy that he made it with her. So how did it go? Maria was waiting for her. She was sitting in the kitchen chewing on something. Great. Olivia had a very good Olivia. I can see that you're melting. Her friend wanted more details. We agreed to talk for a while and then decide what to do, she admitted. I see that you have already decided everything for yourself. Marie became uninterested. She went to the room where she dismantled the couch to go to bed. And why was I so angry with him then? Olivia said to herself. She was making the bed too. She didn't want to hear the pink snot her friend was thinking about. That night, Olivia dreamed of her new suitor. She and he were standing under that very archway and looking at each other. In the morning, Olivia was in a beautiful Oliverian state of mind. Hey, lover, do you want coffee? Shouted a friend from the kitchen. Yes, now, came the same place. Well, and how did you sleep? Maria looked at her neighbor. Fine, and stop teasing me, she said. Today there was no need to go anywhere, so the friends agreed to spend the whole day at home, finally to do a general cleaning. Go? Maria nodded to the room where her friend's phone was vibrating and Jack's name was written on the screen. Thank you, she said, and went to talk to the young man. Hello, he told her when Olivia picked up the phone. Good morning, she was glad to hear that voice. What are you planning to do? Jack wondered. Cleaning, the girl admitted honestly. Do you need my help? He wanted to meet her for any reason. Come, the girl was not even going to ask her friend's permission because she knew that Marie and Jack would have to contact. I'll be there soon, the guy promised. When the doorbell rang, Maria went to open it. She was very surprised to see a huge bouquet at the door. I take it it's Olivia. She tried to get a glimpse of Jack behind it. Hey, help me, the guy asked. Now she took the bouquet. They began to choose and try on. 1 second, third. All were beautiful. No, I can't do this, Olivia said. Look at this one. The woman brought out another dress. One is more beautiful than the other. The bride-to-be almost cried. We've been here for 4 hours. Her friend looked at her watch. Which one do you like best? Olivia decided to turn everything over to her friend. This one, it seemed. Maria just walked over to the dress and poked at the first one that came across. Okay, she looked at the female consultant. I don't mind, she shrugged. The purchase was finalized. The dress had to be left to be hemmed. The friends went outside, decided to sit for a while in a cafe. So, what about the relatives? Maria remembered what they had talked about before they started to choose dresses. Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Olivia decided to place an order. How are you? Jack welcomed her home. Good, the dress was picked out, although it took a long time, she admitted to him. The girl had some excitement, but she didn't show it to anyone. Jack brought up the subject of relatives again. It's hard for me to talk about it, the girl admitted. Well, but I think that between husband and wife there can be no secrets. He sat down to her and hugged her. Bring valerian, Olivia asked her husband to be, because she knew she would roar. Now he went to the kitchen, took out the medicine cabinet, and himself was surprised that Olivia did not say anything for so long and carried it in himself. Thank you. The girl took the vial, poured it into a glass, and looked at Jack. You ready? He asked her. Yes, I'll have to tell you everything at some point. She was on the verge of crying. Even if it's bad, I won't stop loving you. Jack put his arm around Olivia for support. When I was born, I had a mom and dad. We had a good life. My parents loved each other. 3 years later, my mom was pregnant again. Everyone was waiting for the baby to come out. I was so excited to finally have a baby sister. Olivia stopped talking, sighing and turning away from the window. I thought you were going to start telling me that your ancestors were alcoholics, that you had a bad heredity, and all that sort of thing. Jack tried to make a joke, but he realized that it wasn't appropriate. Mom felt so bad. Yeah, I didn't realize it at the time, but she was screaming so hard when she was in the bathroom it was scary. Soon, Dad took her to the hospital, and a few days later, we saw the pink-cheeked girl that Mom showed us through the window. Olivia smiled at that moment. Even though she was a little girl at the time, that moment was imprinted on her mind. Did something happen to your sister? Jack was catching up. No, they were released from the hospital. There were 4 of us in the house now. She looked at the young man. She didn't want to tell him anymore. This was really getting on her nerves. Okay, if you don't want to, I won't pressure you. There were these realizations going on in the guy's head that it was bad. Now she took a sip of water. Daddy worked at the factory. He'd leave in the morning and come back in the evening, and he'd bring some treats. But one night, Daddy didn't come back. We were little, so we didn't understand anything, but Mommy was crying. Julia was 2 years old at the time, but both she and we comforted Mom when she cried. And then we were left with Aunt Selena for a few days. That was Mom's friend. We liked it at her place, so we didn't even cry. Did he die? Jack guessed. Yes, we realized that years later, and then we used to ask Mommy why everyone had a daddy and we didn't. She'd start crying at those moments, and when we got a little older, we were brought to the cemetery, where my father looked at us from the monument. Tears flowed in rivers. Why? Olivia walked out to them and looked at the flowers. For love, he handed her the bouquet and kissed her. Mimimi, Maria grimaced. She didn't like the whole showy thing at all. You love. Take it and take it to the registry office, and what's this? Come on, there will be a holiday on your street, hugged her friend. The whole day, the trio cleaned the apartment. Jack took the carpets that were lying here to the street, and there he clapped them. The girls were scrubbing the windows and floors. When everything was finished, Jack suggested a celebration. All together, they went to an outdoor cafe that was in the center of town. Yes, you're normal, but at first you seem boring, Maria said as she ate her ice cream. You too, Jack laughed back. Olivia sat next to him, and he held her hand. From that day on, the young people were always together. Jack would run over to the girls' work in the evening to meet her there. He was always doing surprises for her. Maria, I need to talk to you. I was sitting in the kitchen with a friend. About what? She was cooking something. Jack and I have been together for 6 months, and I'd like to move in together. Olivia's been wanting to talk about it for years. Are you suggesting I move out of the apartment? The girl turned and looked confused. No, Jack's calling me to his place. She didn't look her in the eye. Here's one for you. Maria put down the spoon and sat down opposite her friend. The apartment is paid for 3 months in advance. Live and then somehow you will. Olivia was ashamed that as if she was leaving the one with whom they had been together for so long. Okay, do what you want. Maria, on the one hand, realized that if it had happened to her, she would have done the same thing. You won't be offended. Olivia came up to her. No, it's okay, just sad. They hugged. In the evening, Jack arrived to pack his beloved's things. He was glad the girls had worked things out amicably. You haven't thought about answering me yet, have you? Olivia and Jack were at his apartment. They weren't changing anything today, just being the two of them. What do you mean? She lifted her head so she could see her lover. About the proposal, Jack had proposed a month ago. He bought and given her a ring, but she'd hesitated for some reason. Why the hurry? She didn't understand. Remember, when I suggested dating, you said the same thing, he reminded her. Okay, let's do it in the summer. She didn't want to bring it up. Agreed. The guy calmed down when he heard the specific terms. A serious adult life had begun, one that Olivia hadn't had yet. She'd just been friends with young men before, but never moved in together. I want to redecorate a little here, Olivia told Jack. Don't mind, it's all in your hands. If you need anything, just ask. They were young and happy. Hi, Olivia came to work every day in a good mood. Maria was happy for her friend. When do I get to go to your wedding? Her friend had asked that several times. I said summer. Olivia didn't like everyone asking her that. Okay, summer was summer. Her friend didn't bother her anymore. Jack continued to work as well. Now he left the house every day after the delicious breakfast his wife-to-be had prepared for him. He was waiting for the warmth to settle in so that he could start to take care of the wedding. Will Maria help you? He asked when they had already decided on the date. Of course, she was busy sorting out the laundry. Olivia, can I ask you about your relatives? Why you never talk about them? Jack had wanted to ask her that for a long time, but he'd never found the time. And now, just before the wedding, Olivia's having a moment. I don't want to talk about it. She turned away from him. Sweetheart, I don't mind. Just tell me, will either of them be at the wedding? He was trying to get the truth out of her by any means necessary. Jack, when the time comes, I'll tell you everything, she cried. With a month left before the celebration, Maria and Olivia went to the store. Again, he asked about relatives. The girl complained to her friend. What about you? They entered the wedding salon. Nothing, as usual, went away from the answer. At this moment, the girls were inside. How beautiful. Maria had already forgotten about what they had just discussed. I feel like I won't choose, Olivia admitted. Why? She didn't understand. If there were 2 or 3 models, and here she waved her hands, pointing at the dresses. Hello, came out a woman who was ready to help. Don't cry, it's all right. The young man pressed her to him. And then some black streak began, Olivia continued, though she spoke with sobs. Will you tell me? It was too late to stop now. Yes, she nodded and took another sip of water. Good, he didn't say anything anymore. He was ready to listen. Mom was working. It was hard for her. She was torn to get us up. We didn't realize it at the time either. When I was 9 and Julia was 5, I wanted to go to an amusement park. My dad had left behind an old car, and my mom had passed her driver's license so she could drive my sister and me everywhere. In the morning, I was hysterical, even though my mom told me that she was very tired and couldn't take us there right now. But I ignored her words, stomping my feet, falling to the floor and roaring. Olivia smirked as she remembered that day. Really? Jack opened his eyes wide. Mom was sick of all of this. She dressed Julia, then told me that we were going to go now. Afterward, the 3 of us walked out of the driveway, got in the car, and drove off. I don't know what happened, but when we were on a busy street, the car skidded so no one would get hurt. My mom pulled over and we hit a pole. Olivia started sobbing so hard that Jack was scared for her. Honey, calm down. He kissed her face, her lips. Julia was screaming because she banged herself so hard, and I was in a stupor because I saw that my mom was lying on the steering wheel with blood on her head. Then the ambulance came, someone else came. We were all taken to the hospital, and from there my sister and I went to an orphanage. Olivia turned to Jack, her eyes searching for some kind of support. Wow, you poor things. He didn't know what else to say. I was in shock, and Julia kept crying and calling for her mom. Psychologists worked with me, and after a year I felt normal, but Julia wouldn't let me near her. She kept saying only one thing when we met, that I was to blame for my mom's death. If I hadn't wanted to go to that park, if I hadn't been hysterical, then we wouldn't have gone anywhere. Olivia was silent as she drank water from a glass, staring at one point in silence. So your childhood was spent in an orphanage, Jack realized. Yes, and my sister never spoke to me until I graduated. When she was a teenager, she yelled such terrible words at me that I couldn't listen to them. When I graduated, I wanted to take her back, but she wouldn't let me. She said she would run away and go back to the orphanage. And when she had a graduation, I found her, but she just closed the doors in front of my nose. Even did not explain anything, a little calmed down girl. And now, was waiting for the young man to continue. And what now? Maria and I, with whom we were brought up together, decided to come here. First we studied, and then we went to work. I didn't see Julia anymore. She put the empty glass on the table. I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had such a story. He got up, went to the kitchen, and refilled the glass. It's all right, but I talked it out. Now I have no secrets from you. She put her head on his chest. Everything will be fine. Time heals when it passes. Then Julia will realize that he has no one more dear than you. He tried to find some words for support, but he failed. It's okay, Olivia assured him. She went into the bathroom to wash her face. Jack tried not to touch the subject of family again. He only had an elderly mother, whom he loved and appreciated very much. Time passed quickly. Olivia took a vacation at work, so that the wedding was held without any fuss. They invited acquaintances. Maria became a witness, which she was very happy about. Are you excited? They woke up in the morning. Jack asked the one who was to become his wife today. No, the girl said confidently. Good, then get ready. He went to the kitchen. Olivia had to go to Maria's house that day, and she was still living in the apartment they'd rented together. Jack was planning to buy her out of it. Everything went perfectly. The young people were not long in the registry office, and then they went to the dining room, where the celebration was to take place. Why didn't I say yes before? Olivia laughed. She was the queen of the evening. And I told you so, he kissed her. Since Olivia was on vacation, Jack was also released for a few days. They decided to go on vacation. With the tickets in hand, they packed their bags and went to the train station. The vacation was good for them. They both came back fresh and ready to start work with new strength. Olivia, what's this? Jack saw the pregnancy test in the morning. Come here, she called to her husband. Now he put everything down and walked over to her. You know, to be honest, I was hoping we'd change climates and get pregnant. She hugged Jack and said in his ear. Why whisper? He wondered. I'm afraid to jinx it, and it was true. Don't worry, we still have a long way to go. He kissed her as usual. Olivia really wanted a child. She imagined how she would babysit it, walk with a stroller and everything else. The girl didn't tell anyone about her dream. She cherished it inside her. How are you doing? Maria often asked her. Everything is fine, but I can't manage to have children, Olivia said sadly. It was only a year after the wedding. Don't worry, everything will work out, her friend assured her. I believe it, the girl looked at her. You know, don't you want to go to your grandmother's? Maria asked me once. What grandmother? Olivia didn't understand her. Well, who will tell you what will be and was, wondered the girlfriend. They used to talk about it a lot. I don't know, before they were young, so it was interesting, but now the girl was afraid to find out something bad. If you think about it, tell me, I recognized one. A very kind grandmother, knows a lot, said Maria. Good, Olivia thought, that would never happen. Days passed, but the long-awaited pregnancy never came. Okay, let's go to your grandmother, came Olivia to Maria's house. What's the matter? She'd already forgotten about this conversation. I don't know, some kind of despair. Jack's not talking, but I think he's thinking about it too. The girl almost cried. Well, wait, we have to call to make arrangements, Maria said. She went to the room, took out a notebook where she had everything written down. She looked at it for a long time and then came back. Well, her friend looked at her. You know, there is no phone here, only an address. Maria showed her notes. Okay, then let's go. Olivia was determined. The girls called a cab. They went outside and waited for the car there. At that moment, Olivia's phone rang. Hello, love. She saw it was her husband. Where are you? He kept calling and asking this. No, not controlling. He just wanted to know. We're with Maria. She didn't bother to deceive. Okay, when are you coming home? Jack asked. Tonight. Olivia didn't know that for sure, so she answered vaguely. Okay. Kisses, he hummed up. How does it feel? Maria turned to her. Yeah, Olivia saw their car pull up. They got in, gave the driver the address, drove off. He looked at them through the mirror. Yeah, my grandmother lives there. Maria lied to him, so he wouldn't think anything of it. They drove for a long time, about 40 minutes, but the friends didn't notice it. All the way they chatted about work, life, and Maria's boyfriends. Maybe I'll go to her too, the girl said. Suit yourself, Olivia shrugged. It's a bit out of the way, the driver said when they stopped. Thank you, Maria paid him back. Have a nice day. He drove off. Olivia and Maria stood looking around. Apparently there had once been a village here, but now there was nothing left. We should have found the grandmother first and then let the car go, Olivia said. She was already feeling a little sorry. There was something creepy about coming here. There were tree roots sticking up here and there, tall grass. Come on, let's go. She saw a ramshackle hut off to the side. And how did you just notice it? Her friend turned to follow her. Maria had almost reached the gate. She tried to open them, pushed, the door creaked open. Hello, shouted the girl, but no one answered her. Maria, are you sure there's someone here? Olivia was getting more and more scared. She realized that soon it would be dark, and the cab would not come. Look, I wrote this address down a long time ago. I don't know. She turned to the girl. What do you want? The friends shrieked when they heard a hoarse and loud voice. Why so frightening? They saw a woman standing in front of them. She was old, but sturdy. What do you want? Repeated her question. We come to see you, to see your fate. Maria did not know how to say it. Come in, the woman pointed to the door of the house. And why is there no one else here? The girls saw that there were no more houses on the street. Afraid, simply answered the lady of the house. Hey! The girls looked at each other. They went inside. It was clean. From the outside, the house was low and small, but inside it seemed to be big. You to the room, grandmother showed Marie, and you to here. She sat Olivia down on a chair. After that, grandma spread the cards out on the table and looked at them for a long time. You won't even ask me anything? The girl was surprised. Sit down and be quiet, she shouted at her. All right, she was silent. Oh girl, it's all black at you, not a single bright spot in the past. Somebody's holding a grudge. That's what's causing all the trouble, the woman said. Yes, Olivia nodded, at which point the woman across from her put her finger to her lips. You want a baby, you can't have a baby. She shook her head negatively. How? The girl even jumped up from her seat, because that was the only reason she had come here. Sit down, the witch doctor stomped her foot. I won't sit down. I don't believe you. She went into the room after Maria. The blackness is in you. You need to cleanse yourself, the woman said in her back. Maria, call a cab. Let's go home. She was already dragging her friend back. Happiness will come if you get rid of the blackness, still said the grandmother calm, but loud voice. Yes, let go. Maria broke free from her friend's clinging fingers. Sorry, she was crying. What happened? They stood waiting for the car. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Olivia almost shouted. Calm down. Her friend didn't know how to bring her to her senses. Why did you bring me here? She yelled. You came to me yourself. Enough time had passed and they saw the car coming. In order not to make it to them, the girls walked to it. Sorry, Olivia sat crying in the back seat. She didn't want to say anything to anyone. You're welcome. Maria took offense to it too, which was her fault. They made it to town, the girls, each being driven home. Were you crying? Jack met Olivia on the doorstep. I don't want to talk right now. She walked to the bathroom. Understood, did not pester her husband. The girl was there for a long time. When she came out, the husband was already in the bedroom. "Are you going to sleep?" he asked her. "Yes, now." She had already calmed down. Olivia came into the bedroom, lay on the edge of the bed, and turned away from her husband. "Why don't you tell me what happened?" Jack wanted to know. "Not tonight." She was on the verge of crying again. As you wish, Jack realized that he couldn't get anything out of Olivia today. He turned off the lamp and closed his eyes. And his wife lay there, everything in her head sounding like something black in her system. Blackness, blackness, blackness. That word wouldn't get out of her head. It wouldn't work. She had a dream where a little girl was reaching for her. Blackness. There was darkness after that. Olivia jumped up in bed. "What's wrong?" Jack woke up too. "Nothing, just a nightmare." She realized she had cried in her sleep. "Come to me." He hugged his wife. She lay more until morning, still unable to sleep. "What's the matter with you?" Maria saw her in the morning at work. "Everything is normal." The girl was pale as a wall, under the eyes dark circles. "I can see that something is wrong with you," tuned her friend. "No bother." Olivia sat back in her seat. "Okay, I won't." Maria returned to the table. Olivia's day was falling apart. She couldn't do anything. When she went to turn in the report, it turned out that half of it had been miscounted. She stood in front of her boss and stared at her. "Olivia, aren't you feeling well?" she asked her. "No, I'm fine." She realized that she had been standing there silent for several minutes. "Listen, I think you should take a sick day and get checked out," the woman advised her. "Thank you, I'm really fine." She gathered up her papers and got ready to go to her room. "Wait," her boss got up and approached her. "What?" Olivia turned around. Olivia, that you spend a few days at home." She was worried about her employees. The woman saw that the always cheerful and agile girl now looked sick. "Okay, thank you." She thanked her again and left the office. She was home again. She did not want to eat or drink, and the words of the old woman from the village did not come out of her head. "What are you sitting here for?" Jack came home and found his wife sitting on the windowsill behind the curtain. "I'm not well." She's crying. "What's the pain? An ambulance?" He misunderstood her. "No, my soul hurts." She put her hand on her chest. Scared, "Tell me where you were yesterday and what happened." The man realized that everything started exactly a day ago. "Maria and I went to the witch doctor." Olivia was ashamed of this act. She did not want to say anything. "What did she tell you?" He didn't believe it. "It's bad," his wife cried. "It's okay," he hugged her. "She said we can't have children." She kept crying. "You believe some grandmother? Let's go to the hospital. Let's get checked out." He's been talking her into it for a long time. "Okay, but not now. I need to go away for a while," she asked him. It was a deal, and they sat hugging each other. Olivia began to come to her senses. She believed her husband's words, that her grandmother had said all sorts of things. A month had passed since that day, and the girl had almost forgotten everything. Now she was the same as before. "Well, are you ready to go to the doctor?" her husband asked her. No, she was afraid of the final verdict. "Okay, we wait further," was patient Jack. He continued to love his Olivienka more than anything else in the world. He and Maria were only in contact at work now, because the relationship had soured because of that trip. Olivia was under the impression that her friend had talked her into going to that village on purpose. "Hey," she came to work. "Hello." Her friend felt like they were drifting apart. "How are things going on the personal front?" Olivia asked the girl. "Same as always," she shrugged. "And why do you still have no one?" Olivia wondered. "I wouldn't know about that." She wouldn't mind if someone came to meet her. "Well, forget it." I didn't want to bring up a painful question for Maria. Some more time passed. Olivia came home. She had bought so many products. She wanted to make her husband a delicious dinner. The girl took the chicken out of the bag. She wanted to rinse it with water, but as soon as she took it, she felt sick. She dropped everything and ran to the bathroom. "What's going on in here?" Jack came into the apartment. "You're not gonna believe this." She pulled out the strip he already knew from behind her back. "Pregnancy." He stared at her. Yes, Olivia was so excited about it that everything was trembling inside. But the girl knew she couldn't do that, because it wasn't exactly clear yet. She had to go to the doctor. "I can't believe it, love." He put his arms around her and kissed her. Quietly, she put her finger to her lips. After that, they went into the kitchen together, Jack chopping and cutting and tasting everything, while Olivia marinated and baked. It was so idyllic between them. The wife looked at her husband and thought that now they were going to have everything the way she had always imagined. "Sweetheart, maybe we should watch a movie," Jack asked in the evening. Come on, it had been a long time since they'd had a romantic evening like this. A movie they had watched when they were still just friends was chosen, memories that made their hearts warm now. The next day, Olivia excused herself from work. She needed to go to the doctor. Of course, she didn't say anything to anyone. Even Maria didn't know that her friend was expecting a baby. The girl walked down the street and thought to herself that she said, the witch doctor was wrong. "Hello, I have an appointment." She came to the gynecological office. "Come in," the woman showed her her hand. She entered the office with an easy gait, sat down at the doctor's desk. "What are you complaining about?" The woman looked up at her. "Here," she put a test with 2 red stripes on the table. "Come in, let's have a look." She pointed to the screen. Okay, Olivia knew it had to be okay. The doctor walked over to her. She was doing her job. Olivia saw that she was frowning. Was something wrong? The patient tensed up. "I don't know, I need an in-depth physical," she said, and wrote something on her chart. "Thank you, goodbye." The girl left the office with a card and a lot of papers in her hands. There were referrals for tests and other doctors. After that, Olivia went home. She wanted to look at everything and read. At home, she felt dizzy and laid down on the bed until her husband came. "So, what did the doctor say?" Jack came into the apartment. "He sent her for tests," she said. "That's good. You'll check your health at the same time." He leaned over and kissed her. The next day, from the very morning, the girl was again in the hospital. She brought the tests and now stood in line for blood. There were a lot of people around, talking about something. Olivia stood listening to all this for a long time. At some point, because of the heat or something else affected her, she just fainted. Everyone in the hallway whispered, started talking, called the doctor. Olivia was lifted up and put on a couch in the office. "So what do we have here?" The man in the white coat took the girl's papers. "What's wrong with me?" Olivia woke up at that moment, dizzy and nauseous. "I see, you're expecting a baby." He looked at her. Yeah, she couldn't focus her eyes. They didn't lift her off the couch. They drew blood right there. "Lie down until you feel better, and then you can go," the medic said. "Thank you." She still couldn't recover. Olivia doubted that she would be able to get home, so she called Jack to pick her up. He came quickly. He was agitated. "What happened?" They were walking outside to the car. "It's okay. She just got a little sick." She was stumbling around. "We'll get home now. It'll get easier there. You can lie down." He was very caring. They arrived. Jack put his wife on the bed, poured water, thoughtfully, so that she would not get up. The girl lay until evening. She did not feel better, but she wrote it all off to pregnancy, remembered how bad her mother was. "So how are you?" Her husband came in the evening. Still the same, she looked at him. "So tomorrow we go to the hospital. You lie down for preservation and no objections," the man said firmly. "I agree," Olivia thought. That's where she would have all the other procedures done. She called her boss, told her everything, and she realized that Olivia was going on sick leave from tomorrow. "I don't want to scare you, but the tests came back, and they're not good." The doctor came to see her. "What's wrong with it?" The girl is tense. "I don't know yet, but we're checking," the doctor said. After that, Olivia was taken to different rooms, ultrasound, blood again, and some other machines. She was so exhausted, she didn't understand why everything was going wrong. "We'll have to terminate the pregnancy," the doctor said after a month. "What? That's out of the question." Olivia was still in the hospital. "Can you bring your husband in to make this decision together?" She tuned out. "Okay." The girl picked up the phone. She was sure whatever the outcome, Jack wouldn't agree to an abortion. The husband was at work, but after his wife's call, he quickly arrived at the hospital. What happened again? She looked at the crying girl. "Come on," she led him to the doctor's office. There she repeated what she had told Olivia. But that was not all. She looked at the man's face, which was graying before her eyes. "Why?" He muttered lifelessly. "Your wife has a tumor with such a condition. If we make it to delivery, she won't live long." The woman was frank. How can that be? The man was crying now too. We double-checked several times before telling you. She put the documents in front of them. I can't believe it. Looked through some records Jack didn't understand anything about. Take my word for it, the woman sighed. It was late when he got home, and it was as if something had died in him. He knew he had to save his wife, so he agreed to terminate the pregnancy. The operation was scheduled for the next day. At night, Olivia dreamed of that little girl again, reaching out to her. It won't work. It won't work. She heard the old woman's words, and again the tears, the hysteria. Why? She jumped up. It's okay, her roommate told her. Yes, Olivia said aloud, and thought to herself that everyone else was fine, but not her. She lay on the bed with her eyes open, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow was like an execution for her. She wished with all her heart that this child would come into the world. Let's go. The nurse came in behind her. Now tears covered her eyes. The girl could not see where she was going. After that, anesthesia and darkness. And the little girl kept reaching for her. Get me out of here, Olivia called to Jack when it was over. Okay, he packed up and drove. The unwed parents were heartbroken, but there was no letting up right now. Olivia had so many treatments prescribed that she realized she wouldn't be able to go to work for a long time. You want to drive yourself, or should I drive you? Jack asked her this morning. She didn't want anyone else around right now. The girl went to another clinic where they looked at all her tests and scans and prescribed treatment. Olivia, hello, Maria called her a couple months later. Hello. So she welcomed her a long time ago. How are you doing? Maybe we can meet up? A friend asked. Come if you want. The condition and appearance did not allow Olivia to leave the house. Okay, then wait for her in the evening, promised Maria to come. When the doors were opened to her, she stood looking at her friend for a long time. She was wearing a shawl and very thin. What happened? Did not understand the girl. Come in, Olivia invited her in. They went to the kitchen, where she told Marie everything. She just sat there and groaned. How could it be? Cried her friend. This is life. Tears rolled from Olivia's eyes as well. They sat like that for about an hour. Say, do you need any help? The guest inquired. No, she shook her head. Jack is my main helper. Well, if you need anything, then call me. The girl was ready to help at any time. Thank you. They hugged each other as Maria left the house. The treatment continued, but the chemotherapy didn't help. They needed surgery. Olivia thought about it for a long time and finally agreed. Everything was taking a long time, so if Jack didn't come to the hospital, he was at home waiting for his wife to call him. The doctor called him and said that his wife was still under anesthesia, but that the operation had been a success. She was constantly being taken for checkups, tests, and other procedures. But the most important thing that worried the girl now was that the main organ inside her was no longer there. It had been removed so as not to risk it. And that meant that she would never have children again. Maria, can I come to you? Olivia was discharged from the hospital. She didn't want to go home. Of course, her friend was always happy to see her. Olivia gathered everything, called Jack, said that she was released, but she would not return home, and temporarily live with her friend. What happened? Why? He couldn't understand. Be patient. She didn't say anything else. She just hung up. Maria was waiting for her. She didn't know how to meet her friend, what to say. She thought she would figure it out when she met her. Hello. Entered the girl in the apartment where she spent so many happy days. Jesus, Cain, looked at her friend. And did not say, you want to lose weight? Asked me how, smiled with one lip Olivia. Why not home? Maria realized that they had something going on. I don't want to. She sat down at the table. You don't want to tell me, or do you want to go home? Home. Tears flowed down her cheeks again. Tell me, Maria asked, knowing that after that it would be easier. I have all removed Poshinsky. I am now empty. She did not look at her. It's okay. The main thing is that you're alive. Her friend hugged her. And who needs me like this? Let Jack live alone. He's still young. He'll meet a girl. They'll get married. And then she'll give him a baby, Olivia sobbed. Are you staying? The girl guessed. Yes, for now, yes, Olivia confirmed. Well, let's remember our youth. Maria tried to distract her. Jack didn't come to them today. He let his wife come to her senses. But the next day he stood in the corridor of the apartment where the girls were on his knees. "Honey, come back. I feel so bad without you," he begged his wife. "Jack, believe me, it's hard for you now, but it's the best option for you. I won't come back." She turned away so he wouldn't see her tears. "What are you talking about? We've been through so much together and we'll get through this." He was sure of it. "You'll thank me later." She pushed him away as he tried to hug her knees. "Love, come back. Love." He couldn't find the words. Maria didn't interfere. She saw two people who love each other crying, and there was nothing she could do about it. "Jack, let's go and talk," she called the man when 2 hours had passed and they were saying the same thing to each other. "About what?" He looked at her with red eyes. "Let's go," she called out to him on the landing. When they came out, he couldn't stop looking at the doors, behind which remained the one and only beloved he had chosen for life. "Listen, let her calm down. As long as the wound is alive, she will blame herself for everything," Maria pleaded with Jack. "What about me? Have you thought of me? I'll die without her," he cried again. "Do not die. Do work. A month, 2, 3. She will think about everything, and you will be together again. I advise you, do not file for divorce unless it is necessary," the girl asked. "Can I say goodbye to her?" He rushed to the door. "Write to her. Try to call her. Maybe it will be easier for both of you." She did not let him back into the apartment. Jack was heartbroken. Here she was, just standing in front of him. Alive, yes. Thin, yes, after surgery. But he loves her any way he can. The man stopped by the store on his way home. He made his way to the liquor section. He bought everything he needed there. Then he came home, to where everything was made by her hands. How hard it was. Jack went on a bender. He didn't want to think. He didn't want to see anyone. He just wanted to die. "How are you feeling?" Maria asked her friend every day. It seemed to her that if she didn't ask, she wouldn't tell her anything. "Fine," Olivia answered every time. It was true. As far as her health was concerned, she wasn't sick anymore. Everything was fine. Walking was still hard, but there was no pain. "I'm off to work." She kissed her friend and ran off. Maria went on social media, wanting to see what Jack was doing. She missed him terribly, but she realized that she shouldn't give slack. The girl saw that he hadn't been online for a long time. What happened, she didn't know. "Maria, do you know what's wrong with Jack?" she asked her friend when she returned in the evening. "No, I haven't seen him since he came over," she shrugged. "He hasn't been online in 2 weeks," she showed her. If you want me to find out, Maria was willing to do anything for her friend. "No, he's probably doing it on purpose," Olivia refused. "Okay, whatever you say," she agreed. They continued to live and be friends. "Olivia, I'm on vacation. Why don't we go to the south?" Maria suggested it one summer. Why, I would not refuse. She would now not hurt to breathe the sea air and relax in the warm sea. Then it was decided. "Let's go." My friend was happy that she had managed to shake Olivia up. They decided that they would take the train and enjoy the conversation and the views from the window. "I can't believe you're with me again. The same Olivia I used to know." Maria couldn't get enough of talking as they traveled. "It was always me. You just had to understand me," she answered sadly. "Why did you do that to Jack? He was ready to accept you." She decided that enough time had passed to talk about it. "Why?" Her friend looked up at her. "What?" She didn't understand. "You start talking about him. You know that I love him, and I never hid it from anyone. It's just, it was necessary." Olivia turned away to the window. Maria realized she wasn't going to talk to her again for a while. The girls had arrived. They had rented a place to stay. Now all they had to do was check in, and then they could do whatever they wanted. "To the sea?" Maria looked at her friend. "To the sea," repeated after her. The girls changed their clothes and went to the place where they had not been so much time. They came to the sea when they graduated. Then together they had saved up so that they had enough for tickets, and at least for a shack where they could spend the night. These memories were the warmest. The girls went to the beach and talked about those times. It was good. "God, Maria." "Thank you." Olivia enjoyed the rays that shone directly into her eyes. "This is a thank you. If it wasn't for you, it's unlikely I would have made up my mind," they hugged. Olivia realized that she had been saving up resentment against her friend for nothing. She still loved her just as much. The girls had only been at the sea for a week, but even that was enough for them to relax. When they were in the city, Olivia realized how lonely she was. At that moment, she decided to visit an orphanage for the first time. Why not? There are kids there that I love so much. They will brighten up my boring life, Olivia said. She still wasn't working. Good, do as you see fit. Maria supported her. When she came for the first time, she realized that the children's smiles and their sincere feeling lifted not only her Olivery, but everything else. Could I come to see you every day? She asked the principal then. Of course, he saw that the girl needed help, so he did not resist. Now, in her city, she was in the orphanage all the time, but when she went somewhere, she did not leave the children without attention, even though they were complete strangers. Maria, I am so happy. Now I have not one child, but several. It's been 3 years since her operation. Have you heard from Jack? Her friend asked her. He probably found someone else. Olivia didn't want to talk about it because it hurt. Jack had changed a lot since he'd gotten out of the state he'd been in for a long time. His mother, who was sick, helped. She called her son and asked for help, and all lately he hasn't had a free minute. He had been following the woman around. The man thought a lot about his life. He never filed for divorce. He remembered what Maria had told him. He never checked in with his wife again. He tried calling, but she just didn't answer. But Jack didn't give up. He waited. Maria, can I ask you a favor? Olivia looked at her. Of course, the woman replied. Can't you go to a place with me? Another question came from her friend. Tell me what the secrets are. She couldn't stand it. I want to go to my sister and apologize to her, Olivia admitted. It's not your fault, she wondered. Please, just please, let's try. She was ready to do anything so that her own person would only forgive her. Okay, Maria was ready for anything, just to make her friend feel good. They were back on the train, traveling to where Julia, Olivia's younger sister, once lived. Do you remember the address? Her friend asked. Of course, I'll never forget it. They stepped out onto the platform, and now they were heading for the place where Julia had lived. At the house where the car stopped, the friends got out of the car, paid, and thanked the driver. Ready? Maria looked at Olivia. Yes, she exhaled, and together they walked into the entryway. They knocked on the door, which Olivia remembered from the last time she'd been here, for about 5 minutes, but no one opened it. Maybe it worked, Maria suggested. I don't know. Olivia had been so determined to meet her, and now her fervor had calmed down a bit. Who are you here to see? The aunt asked sternly as she came up to the floor. My sister Julia lives here. Olivia turned to her. You mean lived? The woman they were talking to corrected her. Lived how? Olivia realized she was late. She found a boyfriend and moved out. The old woman spat on the floor. Why do you do that? Surprised friends almost in a voice. It became calmer, and that was here. She did not tell everything in detail. Do not know where? Maria asked hopefully. No, and I don't want to. She went further up the steps. Before we leave here, I want to stop by the orphanage. Olivia looked at her friend. Of course, Maria knew this oddity of hers. They went to the store first, and then they would go to the children's house. But it didn't work out. Maria called a cab. They stood at the entrance as suddenly Olivia began to shake. She bent backwards, which frightened her friend. Ambulance, urgent. She dictated the address into the phone. Maria escorted her friend to the hospital. Doctors said that one day will not do here, so the girl went home alone. She thought a lot about what could have happened, but then left it. Olivia would get better, and she'd tell her own story. Are you okay? Olivia opened her eyes. She realized she was in the hospital. In her mind was that they were going to the kids. I don't know, she didn't realize what state she was in yet. Hello. A young man in a white coat entered the room. Yes, Olivia looked out the window to determine what time of day it was, but was unable to do so. We suspect you've metastasized. He sat down next to Olivia's bed. What? Why would that happen? She stared at him. It happens after surgery, the doctor told her. I don't want you to do anything, she cried. You're against the exam. It was the first time he'd ever seen a patient like that. How much will I have left if it's really what you say it is? She wanted to know the exact figure. No one can say, maybe you'll live a year, maybe 2, but sometimes even a month is not enough. He was not looking at her, but writing or drawing in his notebook. Olivia could not see that. So I have a month if it's really bad. She looked him in the eye. Yes, consider it so. He stood up and quickly left the room. Good, the girl said to herself already. She wasn't going to spend any time here. She considered that only to waste it. Olivia decided this evening that she would spend the night here, and tomorrow she would just leave. She didn't need any treatment. Who needed her? A simple, useless woman who could do nothing for anyone. Goodbye. She walked out into the hospital lobby. Wait, a young girl wanted to catch up with her. Thank you, I don't need your help, Olivia mumbled. She walked out of the hospital building. She didn't know the city, so she had to ask passersby. Excuse me, can you tell me where the nearest bank branch is? She asked. Of course, the grandmother explained everything to her in detail. After that, the girl went there. She knew that there were some savings on the account. She could withdraw them and do a good deed for others. She wouldn't need it anymore anyway. Good morning. She walked into the bank. Hello, can I help you? A young woman came up to her. I want to withdraw money from my deposit. She saw that there was no line. Great, go to this window. She took a ticket for her. Olivia gave her passport. The girl who sat opposite her smiled. She showed and told her everything. The account turned out to be not so little. She had gotten it all, and now happy, she was on her way to the toy store. Give me something inexpensive but decent. I wanted to get a lot of presents. Why don't we go in and have a look? The salesperson was looking at her. Okay, Olivia liked it here. They walked down the aisles. She piled all the things she liked into a cart. With some of the dolls and games, Olivia stopped to see what they were and what to do with them. It's amazing. She would raise her eyes to the woman walking next to her. We didn't have that in our childhood. Yes, the manufacturers have stepped up now, she confirmed. I'll take it all. Olivia pointed to a cart that was filled to the top. Are you sure? The saleswoman couldn't believe that there would be such revenue today. Yes, she nodded. After everything was bagged, Olivia walked out of the store. Still having some money left, she decided to go to a nearby store that sold various sweets. There she bought candy, lollipops, and many other little things. On the street, she called a cab. Where to? The man looked at the bags that didn't even fit in the trunk. To the orphanage, Olivia said confidently. She was afraid that he might not be the only one in the city. But it wasn't. Then the girl exhaled. They successfully reached the place. The cab driver helped unload. Happily, he looked at his passenger with respect. Not everyone like this will buy a lot of things with his own money and then just give them to the children. Thank you, she smiled, because now she was pleased to do good deeds, however, as always. Hello, can you help me? She approached the guard. What do you have there? He looked through the fence. Gifts to the pupils of this institution, she pointed at the building. Now he opened the gate and went for the packages that stood on the sidewalk. Olivia met everyone here, first with the nannies. They were the first to come out to meet, and then with the director. Could I not just pass it on, but spend some time with the kids? She asked him. Of course, he didn't mind when such guests came. Olivia entered the group. The children were sitting on the floor, playing with toys. Some were running around, others were sitting quietly drawing. She decided to meet the kids first and then give them presents. Mom? A little boy ran up to her. Honey, no, I'm just a good fairy. Olivia knew how children reacted to adults who came to them. Some of them wanted to get them to take her in. Others wanted to gain her trust. But that's not why she was here. What's your name? A girl of about 5 came up to her. Olivia, she looked at her with wide open eyes. And I'm Maddie, she said and put her arms around the girl's neck. Olivia couldn't believe it. This girl looked just like her as a little girl. She pulled her close to her and thought she couldn't leave her here. Guys, I brought you presents. The girl was in a hurry. Where are they? Rejoiced. Now she quickly went to the tutor, told her everything. She only nodded her head, listening to the instructions. Hello again, Olivia panted, as if in a hurry, ran into the principal's office. Thank you, Olivia. He stood up to meet her. Okay, wait, she stopped him. I want to know about the girl Maddie, who was in the group I was in today. Olivia spoke confused and hurriedly because she didn't think she had enough time for everything. Okay, wait, I'll find out now. The man tried to stop her. The man called the tutor. She explained everything to him. The principal only shook his head. So he sat down at his desk and pulled the right folder out of the closet. Maddie. Yes, worried Olivia. Let's see, dropped off at the orphanage, he read. So you don't have any information on the girl? She looked at him with wide open eyes. That's right, he answered, like in the army. I need a list of documents that will allow me to adopt the girl. She looked at the man as if he was her savior. Here, he pulled out a sheet. Thank you. Don't give her to anyone. I'll be back, Olivia promised, and ran out of the office. She was on her way to the train station now. Please, a ticket. She held out all the money she had left. Please, handed her change and the ticket to the cashier. As Olivia boarded the train, she pulled her cell phone out of her pocket, her hands shaking. From memory, Olivia dialed a number that had been familiar to her for years. Jack, hello, she shouted when she was answered. Olivia? He was silent in surprise. Yes, it's me. She saw that other passengers were already looking at her. She decided to get up and walk out into the vestibule. All of a sudden, what? He was surprised. Jack, can you meet me at the station? She dictated to him which train she was taking. Of course, he looked as if he was ready for that call. Then I'll expect you there in a few hours. She hung up the phone, went back to her seat, and sat there looking out the window. Time stretched very slowly. It seemed like she and Maria had traveled very fast there, and now the train seemed like it was going very slowly. Olivia looked out the window, saw them pulling up, and then her pickup man. Hi. She stepped out of the carriage. The excited state was gone. She was more calm now. Olivia. He was walking towards her. Wait, she realized that now the questioning and hugging would start. She didn't need it. Olivia, I've waited so long for this moment. He wanted to hug her like before. Jack, I have something serious to talk to you about. She looked into his eyes. Let's go. He took her hand and led her to the exit of the station. Listen, she got into the car. Wait, let's get home, and there you'll tell everything calmly. It was obvious that Jack was worried. Good. She didn't dare to distract him from the road. Olivia sat next to the man she loved so much, but because she didn't want to ruin his life, she hadn't been around him in so long. Do you have someone? She asked the question only because she didn't want his new girlfriend to get the wrong idea. Did you get divorce papers? He asked and looked. No. She tensed because she didn't know anything about it. Why are you asking then? He looked at the road. Sorry, just needed to know. She didn't say anything else. When the house where she and Jack had once lived so happily showed up in the distance, Olivia grew sad. She realized that she wanted to ask him for something that would help her so much, but whether he would agree. Come on, he opened the door for her and gave her his hand. Okay, agreed. Olivia agreed to everything. They went up to the apartment. That smell of the entryway she remembered. A lot of grandmothers lived here, so it smelled like cooking and other goodies. Come in. He opened the doors and Olivia realized that nothing had changed here since she'd left. Jack, she looked around. Yeah, I didn't change anything. I was afraid you'd come back and you wouldn't like it. He looked at her. After that, the husband and wife, who had not been together for a long time, walked to the kitchen. Tea. He looked at his favorite woman. It seemed to Jack that it was a dream. He was sleeping and everything was passing by him. Yes, she nodded. Do you need help? The man put 2 cups on the table. Very much, Olivia cried. Speak. He took her hands in his. I'm sorry for barging into your life like this, she cried. I'm listening, and I'll help you with anything you ask. The man had tears in his eyes too. I've been staying with Maria all this time, but I think you already know that. She began her story. Yes, what's the point? Maria's not well. He tried to get ahead of her thoughts. No, listen to me. If you say no, I understand. She looked him in the eyes. Okay, he fell silent. A few days ago, I asked Maria to help me. You know, my sister thinks I'm guilty, so I wanted to apologize. We went to the place where she lived, but unfortunately she wasn't found, Olivia said, tears streaming down her face. And you want me to find her? Jack guessed. No, please listen, she pleaded with him. I'm listening. Speak. He squeezed her palms. I don't know if you... Of course, he folded it in half and put it in his pocket. Beloved, she looked at him. I don't have much left. I need to get everything done. I hear you. I promise that by the end of the month, everything will be ready. He never cheated, so Olivia believed him. The family was together again. Olivia had to get used to having her lover around again. She did everything as usual, and Jack tried to please her in everything. As promised, the man did his best. They got into this car and drove to where Olivia thought her daughter was. The principal greeted them in a friendly manner. He accepted all the documents, promised to review everything as soon as possible. "Mommy?" Maddie approached the couple. "Yes, dear, we'll be home soon." Olivia sat down in front of the girl. "And who's that, Daddy?" She pointed at Jack. "How did you guess?" She laughed. "I don't know." She looked at him with blue eyes. "Olivia, when you told me about the girl, I didn't believe you. They were sitting in the car outside the orphanage. And now," she looked over to where the children were walking. "Now I know what you mean. He looked that way too." Jack and Olivia decided not to leave here until a decision was made. They got a room at a hotel, and that's where they've been staying. "Tell me, what happened here when you and Maria arrived?" The man asked a question his wife didn't want to answer. "I don't want to upset you." She looked at him again. "And I want to hear it." She realized he wouldn't let up. "The doctors told me there's not much time left." "Listen, don't interrupt." She could see her husband wanted to say something. "There's a Maria who's liked you for a long time. Now we'll adopt Maddie and then you'll live with her." "What are you talking about? There's always a way out." He couldn't believe it was true. "Okay, I'll let you in on my little secret," she admitted. Listening, he was ready to accept any decision she made. "When they told me I was dying, I decided to buy presents for the kids to make someone feel better. And when I saw Maddie, I knew I wouldn't die. I'd claw my teeth out, but I wouldn't leave her." And she cried again. "My darling, you won't die, I promise you." He couldn't believe it was really happening to him. "Okay, I believe you." They hugged and stood like that for a long time. 3 weeks passed. Jack and Olivia were back at the gates of the orphanage. "So how's our case going?" The girl walked into the director's office. "I can congratulate you." He handed her the documents. "No way." Olivia was so moved that she almost fainted. "It's okay." The man helped her into the chair. "Very good." She couldn't breathe properly. After that, Olivia got down and called Jack over, who was also excited that they were about to have a daughter. They walked into the group. Maddie was so beautiful in her dress, wearing bows. "Come here." Olivia held out her arms to her. "Mommy," she hugged her. "Yes, I'm your mommy." She pulled her against her and cried. They all walked out of the orphanage building together, past the gate, and got into the car. "So, family home?" the man asked the woman and child. "Yes," they shouted with glee. Driving and talking, everything was fine. When they were in their town, they showed their daughter the apartment. She loved it. "Listen, I decided to go to the examination. I will agree to any operation. You only Maddie do not throw," said trustingly to her husband Olivia. "Sweetheart, we'll always be there for you, and I'm sure that nothing will happen to you," he promised her. "Okay, but you still have to promise." She looked up at him. "I promise." He kissed her. Afterward, Olivia went to her daughter's room to read her a bedtime story. She was sitting on the bed, doing nothing. "Why are you sitting like that?" wondered the new mom. "So that you do not start scolding me for touching things," said the girl. "You what? It's all yours. You can touch whatever you want in here," laughed Olivia. "Really?" The girl looked with such trusting eyes. "You what?" Her mother hugged her. "Thank you for taking me out of there," cried the girl, and hugged her. The next day, Olivia made an appointment with the doctor. She walked there on woozy legs. Yesterday, she didn't care what would happen to her. But today, she wanted to live, because now she had someone to live for. "Hello," she entered the doctor's office. "Greetings. What are we complaining about?" He took the card from her hands and began to look through the records. "Scared?" Olivia asked him. "No," he shook his head. "Make the appointment. I'll do anything." She looked up at him, head held up proudly. "Here are all the referrals. After you pass the doctors, come straight to me." He handed her the papers. "Thank you." She was willing to do anything to live. Olivia was not ready to stop at anything. She wanted this child. She had seen this girl in her dreams so many times. And she hadn't. She'd been through so much to just give up on not. "You did good. I'm proud of you," Jack had told her at home. Enough. Olivia wanted to be with her daughter while she was still in this world. "Okay, whatever you say." Jack understood his wife. because she was the most precious thing in the world. She was going to the research, and she thought if they find something there now, she would do any operation. She would endure another course of chemotherapy, but she would stay with her girl. "Come in," the lab tech greeted her. "Thank you." She realized that many people hated the man and he was just doing his job. One analysis, another, and a few more, but Olivia didn't grumble against anything. She waited for the most important appointment of all, with the doctor who would deliver the verdict. "When?" Jack asked simply. "In 2 days." That was the length of time before the verdict that awaited the girl. "Good afternoon." She entered the office, no sadness on her face. "I see that even though you know what we're looking for, you're not discouraged," he said to the girl, and opened her card, which contained everything Olivia was afraid of. "Let's get this over with." She didn't want to rant. "Okay." He began to look at the results of all the tests. "Olivia, can you wait in the hallway?" the man asked her. Of course, she realized she was in the middle of something else, and that meant only one thing, that she was not doing well again. "Come in." The nurse came out an hour later to see her. In that time, Olivia had seen the doctor go somewhere else. "Speak plainly." She looked at the doctor, and she didn't want him to humor her. "You're doing fine," he answered her. "I don't believe it." She was determined. "Where they took your tests were inaccurate, or maybe you had a cold or something that showed that." He held out the paperwork to her. "Is this true?" She looked at the man and couldn't believe that she had been misdiagnosed. "You can go to any clinic. They will tell you the same thing." The doctor smiled. "Thank you." She hugged him. "You what?" He was dumbfounded by such an act. And then when he imagined what the patient was experiencing while he waited to be told, he understood her. Olivia was walking home. No, she wasn't walking. She was floating. Right now, she wanted to do everything for her loved ones. "Maria, hi." She dialed her friend's number. "Olivia, I almost went crazy. Where are you?" "What's wrong with you?" she shouted into the phone. "Tonight we are waiting for you to visit," she said cheerfully. "What visit?" was baffled by her friend. "To such, come to the old address. We are back with Jack." Olivia knew how to surprise. "I'm in shock," Maria said as if she didn't believe her friend. "I'm still in shock myself. Come over. I have one more thing we have to do together." Olivia spoke in riddles. "I'll be there in a couple hours," Maria promised and hung up. "Jack," she walked over herself, put her arms around him, and started kissing him. "What's wrong?" He, like his friend, didn't quite understand what had happened. "I've been checked. Everything is clean," she rejoiced him. "I'm so glad. Be healthy and happy always. With me or with anyone else," he responded to her tenderness. "And now for daycare," she announced to her husband. It's too early. They'd never picked up Maddie at this hour. It was a holiday, so the child could afford to be with her parents. Olivia was sure of what she was saying. Maddie and her new parents were home. Maria had arrived. "It's been so long since we've sat in such company." She looked at her friends. "It would be very often now," her friend promised her. "You had some business with us," her husband reminded her. "Yes, don't think I'm crazy." She looked at the people closest to her. "Talk already." They couldn't stand the suspense. "I want to take a DNA test," the girl mumbled. "I don't get it." Jack looked at his wife. "That's what I meant when I said that you'd think I wasn't doing well at home," Olivia laughed. "Well, talk already." Her friend and husband were waiting. "Well, that can't be a coincidence." She looked at Maddie. "My sister lived in this town. There's only one orphanage, and Julia left quickly. No one knows anything about her," Olivia suggested. "I hear you," Jack nodded, the smile gone from his face. "What then?" The wife couldn't understand. What if it turns out to be a complete stranger's child? He was afraid of that question, but he asked it. "All the same, the main thing is that I will do it," was confident in herself the girl. Good, Jack was ready to support her in everything. "I'm not a counselor here." Maria didn't want to participate in something that could make her friend depressed again. "We'll do it tomorrow, won't we?" She looked at the girl. "Yes, Mommy," she smiled. "That's it, and I don't care about other opinions at all." Olivia hugged her daughter. They came to the clinic, where they took the biological material. Now all they had to do was wait. "Jack, don't you think so?" They lay in bed in the evening. "Let's wait for the results." For the first time in his life, the man didn't want to draw any conclusions. "Okay." She put her arms around her husband and lay on his chest as she had done before. Time stretched slowly. Olivia called the clinic every day. She had had enough of finding out the whole truth. At this point, she didn't stop going to the orphanage and socializing with those she felt needed her presence. Olivia? She heard a woman's voice on the phone. Yes, she answered with a sinking heart. We have everything ready. You can come and get the results, she said politely. Who's with me? She looked at the family. We are, the husband and daughter shouted in unison. The family sat in the car. The girl had an envelope in her hands. You've waited so long, and now you're dragging it out. Jack couldn't stand it. I'm scared, admitted Olivia. Let me do it. He looked at her. No, it's my story. I get to open it. She peeled off the top and started to pull out the paper. The simple A4 size sheet seemed so long. Patience was running short. Well, Jack waited to see what it said. Compatibility. That word she just knew hadn't gotten to that line yet. Olivia. God, you could have a heart attack that way, Jack said nervously. 77 and 6, she glared at him. What did you have to prove? He questioned. Maddie, you're mine, she hugged her, though it was uncomfortable. Mommy, I love you so much. The girl may have been faking it, but she wanted to show the woman who'd taken her from that place that she cared about her. Can I ask you something? Olivia looked at her husband. Yes, he nodded. Find my sister, she begged. Good, he was going to do that himself at some point. After that conversation, Olivia asked him every night how it was going. But Jack wasn't looking for himself, so he answered in other people's words. Jack, what's up? It's been a month since she gave all the data on Julia. Olivia, we have to wait. He realized that. How long? She couldn't. Be patient. He approached her. Okay, she agreed. Jack and Olivia never fought. The man always remembered the moment when his wife left just to get out of his way. Darling, dance. The man came home one day. It had been almost a month since the search for Julia. Did you find her? She guessed. Yes, here's the address. He handed Olivia a piece of paper. Are you with me? She knew he'd always be there for her. Let's go. Olivia was also with her parents. They got in the car. The address was known, so the family prepared for a long journey. They drove. They stopped. Everyone was happy. This is the house. They stopped late at night near it. Why don't we spend the night somewhere and then go to her? Jack asked. No, I've been waiting for this moment for so long, Olivia countered. She yanked the door open and it gave way. After that, it was only 2 floors to go, and they were at the apartment. The girl knocked. Who else is here? The girl opened the door. She was in a nightgown and clearly not herself. Julia? Olivia recognized her as her sister. What do you want? She raised her head. To talk. She could have left, but she didn't want to. What? Yes, you. At that moment, Maddie appeared in the doorway. Do you recognize her? Olivia asked. What, how? Julia was confused. Maybe you could let us in the apartment. The sister was Olivioic. Okay, come on in. After Julia saw Maddie, she couldn't do anything. The apartment smelled musty. Everyone went into the room. Jack, please go with Maddie. Make some tea in the kitchen. She looked at her husband to distract the girl. Okay, headed that way they did. Tell me about it. Looked pointedly at her sister Olivia. You know I'll never forgive you for what you did to Mom, she hissed through her teeth. I was just a kid like you. I never wanted to do anything bad. Olivia always defended herself. I met Jeremy then. We were together. He helped, provided. You could say life was good. Then I found out I was expecting a child. He was happy. He even gave me a ring, a bronze one. But that doesn't change the matter. She paused, looking at the table. There was nothing there. What happened next? Olivia waited for the rest of the story. Nothing. As long as everyone was happy, I was pregnant. For me, everything I want, but in acceptable norms, she corrected herself. Quickly, Olivia didn't want to hear how her sister lived with her boyfriends. I gave birth to her. Julia glanced toward the kitchen. And what? Olivia cried. Nothing. We came home. And then with each passing year, I saw how much she looked like you, as if it wasn't me who gave birth to her, but you. Julia's voice became unpleasant again. And you took her to an orphanage. I couldn't believe my older sister. What was I supposed to do? Hate the baby? The younger one was now looking at the older one. How could you? Olivia was crying uncontrollably. I could have. Julia didn't feel guilty. What if I hadn't seen her? Olivia screamed. Then it wasn't fate, simply said the girl who sat across from her. You know, the fact that you blamed me all your life for your mother's death, it has a place. You were a little girl, and what's in your brain is what's in your brain. But putting your own daughter in an orphanage, and you have my number, you could have called. You're not going to leave? The younger sister was sitting there, showing she wasn't happy to have visitors. I thought you and I would make up, and then we'd be together, supporting each other. Olivia pressed her lips together. And what did you get? The girl looked at her with insolence. Nothing. Olivia got up from the chair. She realized that this was the first time she had talked to her sister seriously. Before, there had been constant accusations and name-calling from Julia. Family, have you had tea? She shouted towards the kitchen. Yes, my mommy. Maddie squinted at Julia, but she hardly remembered her. Darling, she hugged Jack as he approached. Take me away from here. Okay, let's go. He took his daughter in his arms, and as he left the apartment, he turned and met his eyes with the girl who lived here. He realized that she hadn't made any conclusions from the life she had lived. Are you coming? He heard from his wife. Running, they laughed together with Maddie. The family came out of the driveway. They got into the car. The husband looked at his wife. Satisfied? He asked. The only thing I cared about was whether she could take our daughter away from us, and I wanted to cry. But Olivia held on. Mommy, no one will take me away. Hugged her across the seat. Only at that moment she calmed down. We'll always be together. He just touched her cheek with his lips, then started the car and they drove off.